Hokage Hatake Glory, Chapter 81-100. Text Chapter 81 _ The boy who blocked his life. Don't give in to fate. Might Guy Jonan is very sorry, we really can't do such an operation. We do it reluctantly, and the success rate is only less than 30%. If it fails, I'm sorry. For this child, I can't make such a decision. Staring blankly at the medical ninja with the short head in front of him, looking at this middle-aged woman with the highest medical skills in Konoha, the passionate man closed his eyes tightly. Lee Rock's face in the hospital bed was ashes, 30%, which almost pronounced his death sentence. Although the consequences of failure are not clearly stated, they can be guessed. Could he really not be a ninja? Since then, he has become an ordinary person, an ordinary villager. Thinking of the days to come, Lee Luo was confused. What else could he do without a job he loved and gave everything for? I'm sorry, please express my condolences by the way. It's his best choice to be an ordinary person. He bowed deeply to express his apology, and the middle-aged woman walked out of the door sideways. With a muffled sound, Might Guy stared stiffly at the hospital bed. Mr. Guy, I want to be alone. Lee. Mr. Guy, me. I know what you're thinking. Mr. Guy, I can't be a ninja anymore. Turning over and pulling the sheets, the heartbroken little Lee tried his best to suppress his sobbing, but his trembling body still deeply betrayed him. Seeing the disciple crying silently, Might Guy's heart seemed to lose half of it at once. Lee, don't give up your persistence. The teacher has always been proud of you, and wants to continue to be proud. Mr. Guy, I'm sorry. The pent-up tears couldn't be held back anymore. Lee Rock's eyes were full of tears. When I first became a genin, I told Neji and Tenten about my dream, and I was still in the dark. Laughed at by him, but then I was serious. The sheet on his head was slowly pulled down, and Lee Rock looked straight at the end of the bed. You once told me that as long as you have the youth to grow up with your rivals, you can definitely become a great ninja. Of course, this effort is still required. Quote. Lee Guy's voice was low. He really didn't know how to deal with the current Lee. Seeing the helplessness on the teacher's face, Lee Rock laughed at himself. I'm really happy to have the teacher's encouragement. Before this, neither the teachers nor the classmates in the school have said similar things to me. They all say that I am the tail of the Might Crane, and I will definitely not become a ninja's waste. It is you who rekindled my motivation and found a direction to struggle. As long as I work hard, I can achieve success. Reminiscing about the past is always good, Shaoli said with tears flowing out of his eyes again. Later, when I cried and said that I couldn't surpass a genius no matter how hard I tried, it was you who told me that I was a genius who worked hard. Until then, for a moment, I really understood the importance of self-confidence. But this time, no matter how hard I try, it will be useless. Teacher Guy, please teach me, I really don't know what to do. The more I talked, the more tears I said, the more excited I became. Looking at the disciple who was holding onto the sheets on the hospital bed, watching the unstoppable tears in the disciple's eyes, and remembering the scenes from the past, Might Guy suddenly widened his eyes. Lee, if you want to be free from this pain, you must be prepared. Slowly opening his eyes, Lee Rock looked at Guy in disbelief. Are you preparing me to give up my dream? Teacher Guy, me. I understand your feelings. Giving up your dreams will only make you more miserable, and you will live in misery all your life. Because we are all idiots who can't live without our dreams. I'm no different from you. Lee, go get the surgery. Mr. Guy, I think so too, but the success rate is only 30%, which is lower than the success rate of guessing boxing. Why is it still 55% for guessing, and I only have 30%? It is almost certain that it will not succeed. Mr. Guy, I am not afraid of death, but I am really not reconciled. I have no hope. Lee, open your eyes and look at me. Mr. Guy, hearing Guy's stern shout, little Lee opened his eyes blankly, and what he saw was not serious anger, but a look full of concern. Remember what I said to you about the agreement. Only when I push myself to a dead end will I do my best. Every time I guess with Kakashi, I will set a very difficult punishment for myself, which is stupid in the eyes of others. But only in this way, I will be whipped at the painful result. I tried my best. That's why I won one more win than Kakashi. Until now, he never had a chance to win it back. So, do you understand? Mr. Guy. Lee, even if it's only 1 in 10,000 success, I'll bet with you. The surgery is successful, I celebrate for you, the surgery fails, and I die with you. Mr. Guy. His eyes widened, and he stared blankly at the man standing at the end of the bed. Lee Rock never thought that Guy would be so good to him. Dada walked to the head of the bed and took the disciple into his arms. Might Guy said encouragingly, from the moment I first saw you, I knew that you would become a ninja as great as me. Lee, no matter when and where, no matter what kind of desperate situation you are in, don't give up your perseverance. Even if you die, you must persevere to the end. Quote. Mr. Guy. The tears blurred the front of the clothes, and at the same time that Might's master and apprentice made up their minds to work hard, Uchiha Sasuke also worked hard. Lord Sasuke is fine, this place is far away from Konoha. What do you mean? Turning around and staring at the 4 guys who surrounded him, Urzuzi suddenly felt a bad feeling. Zuo Jinyan smiled and guarded the west gate. Actually, before coming here, Orochimaru-sama gave us one important thing. What is it? Ursukako's voice was cold, and the look at Zuo-jin was very unkind. The smirk on Examin's face was even worse, and it suddenly turned into a hideous, that is to let you die first. Let me die first. Sasuke's voice was puzzled, he didn't believe that Orochimaru tried so hard to get him out just to kill him. And, that die once. This is Shinsen pill, please eat it first. The strange medicine bottle that came out from behind was thrown into the air. The second assistant who reached out to take it was puzzled, what's the use of this thing? Your spell seal is still in state 1, and Shinshin pill can forcibly elevate it to state 2. However, once it reaches state 2, the speed at which the spell seal erodes the body will increase. In that case, you will die soon. But if you want to control the second state, you have to get used to it. In this way, you have the same power as us. However, after awakening, you can only last a few minutes at most, and then you will die. Quote. What about after I die? The more he heard, the tighter his brows became, but Sasuke believed that since they dared to bring it up, there must be a solution. Sure enough, the guy he hated the most gave an explanation. Don't worry, we are here for this. The barrier created by the 4 of us can counteract the negative effects of the pills, thus turning real death into suspended animation. When you wake up, you will have the power to control state 2. Quote. Can I trust you? Looking down at the pill in his hand, Sasuke would never go to Orochimaru if he could choose. But now, apart from that outlier, he really couldn't find any other way to know the truth. Uchiha Itachi, a teenager who has been deceived all the time, is now unwilling to trust anyone, not even himself. Strength, that's what should be pursued. Only with enough power can you decide your own destiny. Seeing the changing colors on Sasuke's face, Kitamaru raised his head strangely. Don't be suspicious of us, we are Orochimaru's guards, the same level as the shadow guards in Oyan Village. World, spell seal and seal. With us, you can rest assured. After glancing at these guys who were uneasy no matter how they looked at them, Urzuzi grabbed the medicine bottle tightly, closed her eyes, and poured it all into her mouth. Gudong swallowed the pill for a few seconds, and then fell to the ground with a somersault. Before the blur, the group of 4 shouted anxiously. Hey, if you dawdle again, Sasuke-sama will really die. Zio pulled the giant scroll tied around his waist, and Sakin, who had unlocked the seal, placed the wooden barrel full of spells in the middle. When the other 3 saw this, they quickly mixed Sasuke into it, standing in unison, hand seal, a black fog and purple formation. The purple smoke soaring into the sky circled and hit the wooden barrel like a poisonous cloud. Biting his fingers and writing the spell, he patted the barrel close to the lid to complete the final step. Next, it's time to hurry. Before I came, I thought I heard that Kimimaro would be out there too, and that nasty bastard. To Yuya, will our immediate boss really come? His pupils shrank slightly and his fingers trembled. Gatonmaru had always been a little terrified of that man. The news from Yakushi Kabuto should not be fake. I always feel that he is using us. The blue-purple lips pursed twice. Zuo-jin always looked down on that mysterious guy. The four of them looked at each other. All of them were a little silent, and then rushed back with a heavy heart. At noon, an eagle chirped back to Konoha, and Jiraiya looked at the note in her hand and said, "What the hell is going on?" The first of the 7th watch of, ask for a monthly pass. Brothers and sisters, Union worked hard. This chapter was posted at 4 o'clock in the morning. For Union's hard work, the big guy also gave it a shot. In addition, if you have any comments, please leave a message, and let's write it together. As a newcomer, the cloud needs everyone to point out the shortcomings. Let us make progress together. Text Chapter 82-Different Beliefs, Same Goal. Senju Tsunade is going to follow the Fire Country daimyo to the succession ceremony. Jiraiya, what's going on? I don't know. After all, Tsunade has the status of a princess recognized by the daimyo of the Land of Fire. According to the rules, we must treat her with the specifications of a princess traveling, and this time she came in the name of a princess. Then what happened to these two girls? The scourge of Kuchiki Liamong also came with her. He reached out and pointed to the two names Hyuga Mitarashi Enko on the list. Kaharu Udatain Homura Mitokado was as disgusting as eating flies. Not because of how the two girls are, but because of the number one problem child, Liamong. To let him swagger into Konoha again would be like slapping them in public. Even if Jiraiya's face is not good looking, don't forget that the announcement of Kuchimu Liamong's treason to the village was issued not long ago. If we let him into the village again at this time, is there a way to stop it? I was about to ask you. After all, you two are the advisors of Konoha Hidden Village. Jiraiya sneered as he knocked the question back with a stick. Don't you like to hold big names and thick legs? Keep holding them. Why don't you hold them now? I'll see what you guys do this time. If the problem isn't resolved well, my reputation will be damaged, and the two of you will be different. Then, and looking at each other, Kaharu Udatain Homura Mitokado is numb. Things are really difficult. What exactly did Senjutsunade say about the name of the Land of Fire? This matter has to be said about Liamong. Without it, it is just a beautifully decorated sword. The sword was selected by Uncle Snake from the warehouse. The material itself can only be said to be excellent, mixed with some chakra-conductive metal. It is a rare treasure in the ninja world. But for the top people, it is not a particularly rare item. Which Cage level wants, can get a lot in a short time. But it is such an item that is not uncommon, but it is different after being processed by Lycan. With Magic Flame Pinoche. Spending small blue crystals, 5 elemental crystals, 3 bottles of magic dissolving agent, and a small amount of magic essence, it became a veritable divine sword. Before that, there was no sword in the ninja world that could make fire attribute attacks, and none of the 7 Kurigakure swords possessed such power. And because of the role of chakra conduction metal, the wind and fire ninjas can also bless it to achieve unimaginable effects. How did the sword chi come from? I saw Mitarashi Enko demonstrate in public, splitting a wooden stake 10 meters away into 2 pieces of coke, and the daimyo of the Kingdom of Fire immediately rewarded countless gold and silver treasures. When he learned that there was still another such divine sword and it was going to be auctioned, the old face was distorted, no different from a lasagna. In private, he euphemistically suggested that whether to conduct a transaction or not, it is enough to say how many. Tsunade was unmoved, and also politely declined the request. Because of this, the big name was very upset, but he had already got a handful, and he couldn't force it. I could only be sullen for 2 days, and then I had to agree to Tsunade to accompany him. And made up his mind, we must slap other countries hard. Whoever wants to buy that sword, he will raise the price to the death, and even if it ends up in his hands, he can pay in batches. Who gave Tsunade a princess status? My family can say anything. Let's not worry about what the Fire Nation's daimyo is up to. At this time Konoha has a newcomer. Kazekage Gaara, the fifth generation of the Land of Wind, together with his sister Tamari and his elder brother Kankuro, attended the succession ceremony of the fifth generation of Hokage in the hidden village of Konoha. Jiraiya, who came forward to receive in person, revealed Sasuke's affairs inadvertently in the conversation. Gaara is a big kid. Lecherous Fairy was so happy at that time. Haha, how embarrassing you are all guests from afar. And Lord Kazekage has a high status. It doesn't matter, our two villages belong to an alliance, and Konoha Sunagakure is in a troubled season right now, so it is natural to help each other. There is still a lot of time before the succession ceremony. For the favor owed by Chunin in the exam. Quote. Thank you very much then. The old face smiled and secretly rejoiced. The face of the hidden villages in various countries can be used as much as possible. This thing doesn't hold its value in storage, and it may have to go to war one day. Hearing what Jiraiya said, the three Gaara siblings set off immediately, and Bingui rushed to support them. While the big guy was on his way, Inuzuka Kiba, who was running at the front of the team, asked extremely impatiently, I said Shikamaru, why are you taking on such a troublesome mission? We don't have much friendship with Sasuke. Kiba, how can you say that? Shut up, Naruto, we're not the same as you. Whether Uchiha Sasuke lives or dies has nothing to do with us. Angrily, he turned his head and pouted. Inuzuka Kiba really didn't want to take on this mission. If it wasn't for Shikamaru's summons, he wouldn't even come if killed. Just Uchiha Sasuke's bad temper, and you and Sakura treat him as a treasure. I really don't understand what's so good about that guy. He's looking good. After 3 years of not opening and eating for 3 years, Aburame Shino's words can make a person choked. Kiba got tired of it at the time. You mean, I'm ugly? As long as you know. What do I know? I'm ugly. You think you can be any better? The intense sparks collided in the air. Inuzuka Kiba Aburame Shino's eyes collided fiercely, and Uzumaki Naruto was immediately annoyed. You guys have it all. If you don't want to go, I'll go by myself. Dada jumped to the front of the team with 2 big strides, and everyone was stunned when they saw Naruto getting angry. Is this kid taking cannonball? Let him go if he wants. We just happen to be going back to the village. It's not good to do that. What's wrong? Shikamaru has the power to act arbitrarily. Come on you guys, Sasuke really doesn't have much friendship with us, and he's not a particularly attractive guy. But he's a ninja in the village just like us, so that's enough. Now, let's speed up. The toes pressed hard on the tree pole, and the pursuit team that jumped ahead accelerated. The rustling linfeng blew down, and the 4 of them stopped in unison. Someone. Is it the pursuer? It's not like that. Gatonmaru glanced sideways at the gap in the forest. It should have hit it. Pieces of dead leaves drifted toward the clearing, and Shiranui Genma Mountain Castle Aoba, standing in the shadows, looked solemn. Those guys were the men from the last time Orochimaru attacked the village. I never imagined that I would encounter this kind of trouble when I go to the Daming Mansion to deliver a letter. Come on, get rid of them. He swung his hand forward to take the lead and jumped out, followed by the Mountain City Aoba, who took the lead in launching the offensive. Quack quack, 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 and countless crows fluttering their wings and flocking to the enemy group. What are these guys? They are so ugly. A crow, but not like a living creature. Demonic illusion. Duyuya. Looking back suddenly, several fireballs struck, and Jirobo instantly stood in front of the crowd. Doden, Earth Style, Sphere of Graves. Kaden, Fire Style, The Art of Balsam. The collision of fire and soil, countless smoke and dust piled up, and Shiranui Genma, who was spit out by Chinbin, came behind the enemy in an instant. Both sides, these Orochimaru dolls are dead. The gunpowder smoke caused by the collision of ninjutsu rose to the sky, and all the people on the way stopped. Over there. Don't hurry Kimimaro, you are too hurry. Orochimaru-sama's goal is not to be missed, we will speed up. Oh man, Uncle Snake is really that important to you. After a few days, Lu Meng was rushing to the road with a sore back and a sore back. He was exhausted. Next time, he wouldn't say anything with this workaholic. Kimimaro smiled apologetically. My life came to an end. At that time, I often wondered, why do people live forever? For this, I have thought about it for a long time. Some people are because of love, others are because of love. Because of the family, there are people who live happily for their parents and elders. I am different, I don't have any of these. Before Orochimaru-sama found me, the only thing I had was a cell to restrict freedom. Thinking of that dark childhood experience, the boy in white clothes and white hair looked up to the sky, and Shirakumo seemed to be listening to him. In my life, I have no friends, no relatives, and no partners. As a monster, I only think of me when I fight. Before that, no one taught me what to do, and no one taught me how to live. Until the appearance of that person in my life. I and the four have essence they need and fear the power of adults. And I am willing to accept it from the bottom of my heart. Quote. Looking up at the sky with high eyes, Lin Feng brushed the pale Kimimaro as if to redeem. I am willing to dedicate my everything, my life, my soul, and even everything to the one who gave me hope. No matter whether he is good or bad in the eyes of others, for me, he is everything. I accepted the mantra with my whole body and mind, so I can create the miracle of life. Liamong, thank you for your help, so that I can continue to serve Orochimaru the possibility of the Lord serving his life. Although the Lord has no respect for my body now, I am willing to use the next time to become the sharpest sword in his hand. The will of God is my life. With firm eyes, unshakable faith, and looking at the proud and independent young man in front of him, the gangster's heart ran through 10,000 grass and mud horses in an instant. Is Orochimaru too foolish, or Kimimaro is too hard? It's hard to understand Liuman who doesn't have the same experience, but he can really feel the difference between Kimimaro and the other four. Ask for a monthly pass, the second of the 7th watch, let's work together and come on. Text chapter 83_ as a captain, I will not let you go even if I am a ghost. Blah blah blah. What's wrong, Kiba, why did it stop suddenly? There is blood in the front. Heihei168.com, twitched the tip of his nose slightly and looked into the distance. Inuzuka Kiba's expression was very nervous. It came from the place where the fight was just now, and the two groups have separated. The breadth of the 5 people has gone far, and the enemy is also a standard 4-person team. Let's go after Sasuke, it will be too late. Don't interrupt, we have to listen to Shikamaru on these things, you big idiot. Uzumaki Naruto glared at the annoying Uzumaki Naruto. Even if he knew his true identity, Inuzuka Kiba often doubted. With the prestige of 4 generations of Hokage, how could such a brain-dead offspring be born? Who did he inherit from? Could it be Shikamaru? With a malicious smile, Inuzuka Kiba suppressed the joke in his heart. The smell of blood is probably a conflict, and if you look at it in the past, you should be able to get a lot of information. However, due to the need to act carefully, the team must switch to a reconnaissance formation and search slowly. With this delay, the enemy will run out of the country of fire. Cross-border operations and operations in the homeland are 2 completely different concepts, and in Konoha's current situation, it may cause unnecessary trouble. So let's go after Sasuke. Shikamaru. Isn't that right? Haha laughed and raised his head. Uzumaki glanced at Kiba smugly. Shikamaru glanced at him immediately. Don't get too excited, everyone listens carefully. From now on, raise your attention to the highest level, and report immediately if there is any trouble. And if you find something suspicious that you can't understand, you should also report it to everyone. Guys, don't just try to avoid it yourself. What did you say suspicious about? Turning back 1, 2, 3, or 4, the pursuit team headed by Shikamaru swallowed their saliva. Looking at the 205 who stepped on the talisman, the cold sweat on their forehead fell as soon as they said it. Naruto, don't move, don't move. What's wrong? Uzumaki Naruto was puzzled when he saw the terrified eyes of his companions. Shikamaru swallowed again. Smecta, you stepped on a mine, Smecta. Mine. A thunderbolt hit the forehead. Naruto slowly lowered his head. His face turned green in an instant. What should I do? Don't move, this should be the triggering of the test talisman, and it will blow up just now. Don't move, I'll take a look first. I don't move, you can save me. His calf turned and his skin twitched, and Uzumaki Naruto panicked no matter how big his nerves were. Slowly walked closer, pursed his lips and squatted down. Nara Shikamaru was covered in cold sweat. Shino, look around, there should be more than one. It's easier to read on mobile phones. Heihei 168. Calm Kiba, let's take a shadow clone out, let's see can. Shikamaru, me. What's the matter with you? My stomach hurts. What? Up in astonishment, Shikamaru looked at Naruto in disbelief. Stomach pain at this time. I want to poop, and I want to pee. What have you been doing so early? Tears twitched on his little face, and Naruto was shivering all over his body. I don't even want to think about the feeling I just had. I'm going to be unable to hold it in anymore. There was a continuous burst of rumbling, and looking back at the firelight from a distance, the tired group of four raised their minds. Sure enough, there are still chasing troops, but they look so bad that they can't even escape the talisman. Better be careful. I'm hungry. You know you're hungry all day long. Accelerate. We are almost there. Tied with four-cornered chuju and flying strings. Tamari, who stopped, glanced at the forehead guard on Genma's head. It's a ninja from Konoha, and this dress should be Jonin. I am about to run out of breath. Bowing his head to probe his nose to listen to his heart, Kankuro tilted his head to look at Gaara. Can you help? Healing them. Now we are tied to a boat with Konoha. We can't watch the strength of the Alliance village suffer. Konoha crosses, and our Sunagakur village is not better. Cut. What a disgusting country. He took out the secret medicine from his backpack with reluctance on his face. Naturally, what Kankuro brought wouldn't be anything bad. After 2 pills were fed, Yamashiro Aoba Shiranui Genma quickly woke up. You are. At the invitation of Hokage, the 5th generation, I came to pursue Sasuke Uchiha. Have you seen him? Uchiha Sasuke didn't see it, but we found a very strange wooden barrel, and 4 of Orochimaru's men. Orochimaru, isn't he dead? Some time ago, in order to build momentum for the new Hokage, Konoha has been promoting Jiraiya's record, and killing Orochimaru as the top priority. We don't know either. Shiranui Genma's face was a little bit yuhi, and the faces of the 3 Gaara sisters were a bit dark. No matter what, the 4th generation of Kazekage is their father, and it is very likely that they will be killed by Orochimaru. Now that he heard that the person who came was Orochimaru's subordinate, the killing intent immediately boiled over. Can you hold on? If you can hold on. Ahem, we're fine. It's not far from the village. You should hurry up and pursue it, please. Please be careful. The techniques they use are beyond the scope of ninjas. Don't worry about this. The one standing in front of you is our 5th generation Kazekage of Sandian Village, Sandstorm Gaara. Tamari looked proudly at his younger brother, and Tamari's eyes were full of tenderness. Shiranui Genma, Yamashiro Aoba was stunned. 5 generations of Kazekage. Yuhi's shattered hair fluttered, and Yuhi's dark clothes fluttered, and Gaara's back was left shocking for a long time. This is probably the youngest movie in history. Shira, who fights for love, must prove to the world under the protection of mother's love that his existence is bound to be sublime. Lonely wind swept across the mountain, 2 fire clouds swayed slowly, and the man standing in front said, "Let's go. I really don't want to come to this ghost place a second time." Putting a large knife wrapped in bandages against his shoulders, the green-skinned shark-faced monster stood up straight. The man with tears on his face didn't say anything. He had only one thing to do now, and that was to take his younger brother away. The village, the 3 generations, the family, all kinds of thoughts swirled in his mind, and a trace of confusion flashed in the man's eyes. Kimimaro, don't get too rushed, they're right ahead. Riding on Xifeng's back and yawning, Snow White Yuri turned her neck with the radiance raised. The 4 people who were resting looked at each other, and they all played drums in unison. What's wrong with Gitongmaru? We are surrounded. From the front, back, and sides, feeling the vibration from the spider silk, the big horse monkey-like East Gate suddenly stood up. Jirobo and Tayuya all widened their pupils. Shikamaru, the smell is not right, there are many people in front. Wait, there is a familiar smell in it. Who is it? Yes, boss. Oops, here's the trouble, he's our enemy now. Not sure. No way. Naruto opened his mouth in astonishment. Aburame Shino saw the sweat on his forehead and reminded, the village has already made him a forbearance some time ago, we really want to bump into it. Are we going to fight him? Patting his big chubby belly, Choji looked back at the way back, otherwise, let's go back. Big fat pig, how can you say such depressing words? The boss will never take action against us anyway. Shut up, you idiot, he doesn't shoot us, it doesn't mean others don't shoot either. And I'm not a big fat pig, you little monkey. Big fat pig, who are you calling the little monkey? Shut up, stop arguing here. Angrily glanced at the troubled Naruto, Inuzuka Kiba turned to look at the team leader, Shikamaru, what do you think about this? There are 2 auras that make Akamaru feel scared. If not mistaken, then S-class. A sound of thunder swept through my heart, and the chasing team that gathered together were all silent. Hey, what's wrong with you? Hurry up and chase. Don't be arguing. The yellow-haired boy glared fiercely. Inuzuka Kiba and the others were all waiting for Shikamaru to speak. Eyes and thinking for a long time, Konoha's chief military officer, Kiba, took a bite and said, let's move forward in a defensive formation. Let's go and have a look. This operation is mainly based on reconnaissance. If there is an enemy attack, I will stop it later. Shikamaru. Don't say it, since I brought everyone out, I will bring everyone back. In terms of the means of containment, none of you can catch up with me. The super-level fighting ability is only shadow imitation. Choji, if you are for me, take good care of Mom, although she's always so annoying. Patted his friend's shoulder as if to explain his last words. Choji's face was full of consternation. Shikamaru, let's not go, okay? Hokage-sama didn't say. We can't even have the courage to meet each other. Uzumaki Naruto, please listen to me. The enemy you will face in a while is likely to be more powerful than you can imagine. I don't want you to rush up when your head is hot, and you will die yourself. It doesn't matter. If it affects everyone, Nara Shikamaru, won't let you go. I know, don't look at me with those suspicious eyes, okay? He scratched his head with a dry laugh. Naruto discovered for the first time that he was so untrustworthy. It's not that you don't trust his strength, it's that you don't trust his character. Shikamaru, Choji, Shino, Inuzuka Kiba, and the chasing team who reorganized their gear set off on a journey. The wind was blowing from the ground, and the group of 4 looked at the 2 men who slowly walked out of the darkness in front of them, and swallowed their saliva. Ask for a monthly pass. The 3rd chapter of the 7th update will be published every 2 hours. Brothers and sisters, the cloud is up to you, let's work hard together. Text chapter 84_brothers versus Chaos Battlefield. What a joke. Will be killed in seconds. This is not the 2 Konoha Jonin just now. This kind of terrifying aura and coercion seems to them, but they must have more interests than Lord Orochimaru. Heihei168.com. The long-term escort was around Orochimaru, and the 4 were extremely sensitive to the breath of the strong. Facing the 2 men in robes in front of them, they didn't even have the courage to resist. The gap is too big. Where's Sasuke? The wooden barrel, and immediately knew that the bad dishes were waiting for a reaction, and Jirobo fell and flew out. Pressing the body of the barrel engraved with the spell with one hand, Uchiha Yuhi, Sharingan moved to the remaining 3, what is this seal? Yes. Gudong swallowed 2 large mouthfuls of saliva into his throat. Zuo Jin, Gatong Wan, and more were all speechless. Just when Itachi was about to press on, the black shadows flying through the air slammed into the back. Kisame Hoshigaki, whose arms were trembling, lowered his eyelids. These are. Long time no see, how are you all? A tiger roared in midair, and behind the 4 to 5 meter high golden-haired tiger, the white-clothed and cloaked gangster grinned and waved his hand to call. Put the bucket down, and no one should act rashly on the person Orochimaru-sama calls for. Those who disobey will die. Kimimaro. Is that your kid? The 4 of them looked at the boy with white clothes and white hair, and Kisame Hoshigaki recognized the stray man on the golden tiger's back. Cold wind suddenly picked up, and Kimimaro rushed out instantly, 2 bone spurs pressed to his chest. Shikatsunyaku, dead bone pulse, dance of the willow. Pale bone spurs growing from each joint fluttered like catkins. Without seeing any stabs of fireworks, every step is a murderous intention, and every move is killing. Ghost Shark, take him away. Kick back with his left heel and kick the barrel away. Uchiha Itachi turned into a crow that scatters all over the sky. The spectators were all dumbfounded, this level of confrontation. Stop him. He suddenly woke up and gave an order, and the 4 of them rushed towards the Kurigakure eccentric. What should we do? Behind the tiger with a cold sweat. While Shikamaru was thinking about it, Kisame Hoshigaki's sword had already been swung away. If it really touched it, it would be injured, and if it touched it, it would be disabled. The 4 people with the curse mark were in front of him, not much stronger than 7 or 8-year-old dolls. In particular, the large sword shark muscle that can absorb chakra has caused countless troubles to the group of 4. Grab Sasuke first. 8-1. The 2 gangs who were originally rivals unexpectedly joined forces, and the pressure on the Kurigakure eccentric instantly doubled several times. Shadow mimicry. Kiba pass Kiba. These nasty little bastards. What are you looking at? Whispered in his ear. It was really shocking. Kurigakure's eyes turned back, and the whole person flew out. Boss. Deadwood shimmering. Back against the barrel and looked left and right. One side was Orochimaru's subordinates, and the other side was his former younger brother. The gangster was really laughing. The 4 of you, take Sasuke and go first. Boss, how can you? Shut up Naruto, he's the enemy now. But. Nara Shikamaru with a dignified expression, and smiled eloquently, it seems that you are still as calm as ever. Yes, we are indeed enemies now. The wooden barrel that sealed Sasuke was back in his hands, and he glanced around at the bastard who blocked Konoha Xiaoqiang and Shark's face, and gave the other 3 a wink. Just as he was about to leave, the overwhelming yellow sand hit the top of his head, and the wooden barrel changed hands again in a blink of an eye. Sunagakure Village, Cage 5, Sandstorm Gaara made a strong debut. The fighting chapters stopped immediately. Kimimaro, Uchiha Itachi, Kisame Hoshigaki, Konoha Xiaoqiang. One by one, in groups, staring at each other. At the invitation of Hokage Jiraiya of the 5 dynasties, Sunagakure Village of the Land of Wind, Cage of the 5 dynasties came to support. Bang! With a muffled sound, he smashed the puppet on the ground, and Kankuro, who stood a step behind Gaara, called his name. Distinguish between the enemy and as the 2 sides move closer. Odogakure Liamong, Sunagakure Xiaoqiang, Itachi and Oni, all 3 forces looked towards the wooden barrel surrounded by yellow sand. Ghost Shark, do it. Neither is his own person. Uchiha Itachi doesn't want to make any further changes. Kurigakure, who had suffered a big loss from the hooligan last time, raised his head with a wild laugh, opened his mouth, and spit out the flood. Sweetened water style, water colliding wave. The water current enough to form a lake rumbled towards the 4 directions. Gaara narrowed his eyes, and the 9 deserts floated up in an instant. Seeing that the situation was not good, Liamong turned over and jumped behind the west wind, making 2 vertical jumps, also set high. The remaining 4, Jinchuriki column, faced the flood with pale faces, and the bone city wall that was raised from the ground relieved them. Sasuke got it. Withdraw. Where to go? Seeing that Uchiha Itachi regained the wooden barrel and wanted to run away, both parties rushed over. The crow flew away, and the Liyuman that stepped forward rushed towards the open space. Leave it for me. Uchiha Itachi, who flew up and swept towards his waist, showed his anger. Mangekyo Amaterasu. Legend has it that from the center of the sun, Kaden fire style, the highest secret of ninjutsu, cannot extinguish the black flame that can burn everything, and ignites from the spinning windmill Sharingan gathering technique. The face of this kind of pervert stuff, Liamong doesn't care if Sasuke is aiming at Sasuke or not, Sasuke is just running away. Lightning dance death mist. The body that turned into a streamer bang 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 shed a large amount of dark purple, and Uchiha Itachi suddenly turned around with blood from the corners of his eyes when he saw the gangster leader who was far away. Sasuke, who slowly got up from the cracked wooden barrel, stared at it half a step. Follow me. Without the joy of seeing her biological brother, Ursukako's pupils were unusually cold. I'm not a child anymore, I don't need to live in the lies you make. I said, come with me. Why, with your eyes? Tomo condensed suddenly, the snowflake and the windmill collided in the air, and the brothers faced each other with swords. You've grown up. It's all forcing you. The hysteria was full of madness, and Sasuke began to doubt after the Chunin exam, doubting his own existence, doubting his own past. Why is everything fake? Why is everything fake? What are they trying to do? Fool him like a marionette. The village, the family, the elder brother, after countless nights of contemplation, awakened the pair of pupils who are now looking for the truth. Uchiha Sasuke no longer needs to compromise with anyone. Whether Itachi or Orochimaru, or the village where he lived for 12 years, the only thing he needs to pursue now is power. The curse of the sky imprinted the apocalypse, the ferocious bones and wings scattered the clothes, and the second assistant with the cross-star pattern between his eyes spread his wings and flew into the air. From now on, my life will no longer be dominated by anyone. Under the witness of the sky and thunder, no one will try to fool me again. Itachi, pay the price for what you have done. I, Uchiha Sasuke, are not you. Toy in hand. Quote. Kill them. Shikamaru, who had a pair of eyes with Tamari, gave the order to attack. The congealed bone spur from his shoulder, Kimimaro glanced at Gaara, who was in the air. Riding behind the west wind and running far away, Liuman glanced back. A shark face was reflected in his pupils, and Kisame Hoshigaki, who was wrapped in a shark shell, grinned again and again. Little bastard, you can't run away, today is your day of death. Shark face, don't think that the young master is afraid of you. Turning the tiger's head to look at each other, the gangster clenched his fists. Seeing Liuman stop walking, Kisame Hoshigaki laughed, which was worse than crying. Was frightened at the time, and quickly made a pause gesture. Kurigakure weirdo, let's not rush first. Since the first time I saw you, I have a question I've been wanting to ask you. Look, today can you tell me, even if I die, let me die and understand. Quote. What do you want to ask? I don't want to ask anything else, I just want to ask, how did you get this title? Self-questioning and self-answering, blinking his eyelids, Liamong patted his thighs in anger, sighing while patting, look at it. You are too dedicated. I have seen ugly people, but I have never seen you so ugly. At first glance, you are ugly, but if you look closely, they are even uglier. Seriously, Kisame Hoshigaki, with your appearance, you have already broken through human imagination. When your parents gave birth to you, why didn't they strangle you to death on the spot? It's not your fault that you look ugly, it's your fault that you're scary. Listen to the young master, the ground is too dangerous, you should go back to the ocean go. Asshole. The steel Kiba with his mouth full of quacks shattered, and the anger of the strange Kurigakure rose to the peak with the spittle of the flowing man, and finally he couldn't bear it anymore and went mad. Give me death. Sweetened, water style, water colliding wave. The endless waves like an ocean slammed into the forest, and the legumen sitting on the back of the west wind froze at that time. There was a continuous sound of rumbling water, and the giant trees that snapped and broke were all over the place. No, I have to run quickly. You take care of those 4 guys, he'll leave it to me. Yellow sand in the sky rushed towards Kimimaro, Gaara said and rushed up. Uzumaki Naruto stood by and listened with dissatisfaction. Why should we listen to him? He looks so stinky. Shut up, that's the 5th generation Kazekage. Shikamaru, you can believe this. Look at how old he is. He is obviously similar to us. If he was Kazekage, I would still be Hokage. Little Wangmao, you'd better shut your broken mouth. If you dare to doubt Gaara's identity, I will kill you. When a poison needle passed in front of his eyes, Kankuro's gaudy face startled Naruto. You, what do you want to do? Forget it, Kankuro, don't be as knowledgeable as this mentally handicapped person. Take care of the 4 guys on the opposite side first. Who are you calling retarded? Ask for a monthly pass. Chapter 4, Brothers, it's time to witness the miracle. Click on the ticket if you have a ticket. Thank you from the cloud. If you have any comments on the mood of the story, please leave a message. Text Chapter 85 _ catch and tear opponents to change the pattern of the battlefield. Staring at Temari, who was leaning on a giant fan, Uzumaki Naruto raised his fist angrily. Interesting Academy first release. What responded to him was a chakra storm that roared out. Spiritualism/dance. Solve them with one blow, and support Gaara. The princess of Sunagakure, who bit her thumb and swiped on the 3-star fan spread out in front of her chest, swelled up nearly half of her chakra, and swung the iron fan out. The wind howled, the trees were broken, and the psychic beast with the giant sickle swayed the endless blade wind. With an infinitely terrifying blow, the scraped earth and rocks flew into the sky, and in the middle of the gate, the grimace raised from the ground opened 2 cracks as if someone had cut it with a knife. If the group of 4 hiding behind the door hadn't reacted fast enough, they might have finished the game with a single blow. Rush up, melee. Hands, he slapped the sphere of graves, which was covering the air, and Jirobo smashed it into the crowd. You came and I collided with a large ninjutsu. Choji's chubby body jumped into the air without hesitation. A ball of meat, a ball of soil, spun and cracked away countless sediments. Naruto, who was standing behind, shouted excitedly, "Look at me! Haishuyu Shenwei! That seal!" At such a cool moment, under the attention of so many people, as the son of the 4th generation of Hokage, the future Hokage will continue. How can the great 6th generation Hokage Uzumaki Naruto not perform well? Let everyone be shocked by it. Psychic Clam. Shikamaru. Temari. Kankuro. What is that? This is the psychic beast he summoned. What is this kid kidding? Touching his head and turning his neck, the palm-sized Toji dragged his cheeks and looked at Naruto. It's you kid, hurry up and get me something to eat, or I won't play with you. How could it be you, your father? My father. Yes, go back to me quickly and replace your father. Idiot boy, are you stupid for eating bugs? You're stupid for eating bugs, you nasty toads. Bastard, don't underestimate our amphibians. Uzumaki Naruto and Todeyoshi, who had big eyes and small eyes, looked at each other. Interesting Academy first release. The group of 4 who rushed halfway almost fell to the ground. The faces of Shikamaru, Shino, and Inuzuka Kiba were irritable, and all of them were blue and white. What's that kid on the other side doing? I don't know, but I want to kill him. I think so too. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go together. Same spiritism, different results. With both hands on the ground, Gatong Maru summoned an oversized black spider in the sky of smoke. Looking at the big guy with hundreds of his own size, Todeyoshi quickly closed his mouth. Hey, Naruto, over there. Do what? I said over there. Nana looked back in the direction pointed by the little toad claw. and looked at the big spider that was about to rush to the back of his butt. Uzumaki Naruto jumped high like a cat biting his butt. Mice resist knives, looking for cats all over the street. Gatong Maru, who didn't give Naruto any chance to resist, spit out several cobwebs. Mixed with chakra, the spider silk that the two elephants were pulling continuously stuck to the body. In less than 2 blinks of an eye, Naruto was hung to the top of the tree, and he was dumbfounded there. What are these things? It's fine if he doesn't struggle, the more he struggles, the tighter he gets, and Toji, who was also stuck, almost mad at him. You idiot is really a little brother recognized by my father. I have never seen a waste like you. I'm a waste, how can you be good? You want to benefit, you break this thing for me. His eyes were spitting fire to stare at his psychic beast. Uzumaki Naruto's stomach was full of evil fire. After solving the idiot in his eyes, he rushed into the crowd, and the last Taiyu also used his psychic again. The 3 ghosts who appeared powerfully really scared Shikamaru, Tamari and others. What are those big guys? The same players, different tacit understanding. The party who clearly had the upper hand was chased into the forest. Shino Cat, who disappeared for some time, was deep in the grass, surrounded by black dots. The battle between insect masters has always been won by numbers, although the opponent can summon spiders that restrain most insects. But as long as there is enough preparation time, it is not difficult to solve. Shikamaru, look at you, 5 minutes, I need 5 minutes. The road is facing the sky, go to one side. Was bombarded by Kisame Hoshigaki with the Suiten, water-style, ninjutsu, and his eyes were full of anger. Tigers don't get angry, do you think I'm Hello Kitty? He was aiming, I want to see who is more ruthless between the two of us. Zaifeng, rush up to me and kill him. With a loud squeak, he rushed forward, and the flamboyant pet instantly appeared in front of the ghost shark. Shark face, are you cool enough? It's my turn when you are cool enough. Empty hammer. The 2 feet swayed and kicked towards the face in a row, the ghost shark's arms let out the strength, and Liamong caught his unhappy shark face in the middle, turning over and smashing to the ground. Turned his head down, and the immobilized Kurigakure freak shattered into blisters. Damn brat, I'll see where you're going now. Sweden, water-style, water prison shark dance. The huge amount of seawater that was spit out before was summoned by the ghost shark that turned into a half-man and half-fish, and the rumble formed an ellipsoid-shaped water prison. Fighting in water is no better than land, and there is no place to rely on it. This is undoubtedly a disaster for those who lack training. Unfortunately, Liamong is extremely inexperienced in this area. Damn brat, you're dead. Gaara, who was wrapping his arms, was full of fighting spirit. Half a battlefield apart, Kimimaro wanted to look at each other with a bone spur in his hand. Sandstorm Gaara, when the real person lives up to its name. You're not bad either. The jet black panda eyes didn't blink, and Gaara seemed to always be the same expression. Kimimaro, who was carved out of a mold like him, silently pulled out bone spurs, and his bare chest was covered with patterns. The battle started again in an instant. Yellow sand and the white bones sing together, the dim yellow and the pale dance together. Gaara's sand, Kimimaro's bones, 2 people fighting together will really meet the good village flag and the opponent. The attack of the spear and the shield, the absolute defense and the contention of Shikatsumyaku, dead bone pulse, the monster that has been suppressed in the body since Chunan's exam keeps roaring. Boy, let me out and kill him. You know, I have the power. Shut up and don't disturb my fight. Asshole. If the tailed beast wants to break free from the shackles of the human Jinchuriki, column force, it must rely on the flaws in the human Jinchuriki, column force's mind. In the past, Gaara was always influenced by Shukaku because of her inner confusion and confusion. The longer the time, the more abnormal the spirit becomes. The more mentally abnormal, the less control he has over Shukaku. But this situation, which could only get worse and worse, changed quietly after Chunan's exam. Tamari filled the void in his brother's heart with the tenderness of his own life. When Gaara really understands the truth, Shukaku has a lot of bad luck. And unlike ordinary people, Jinchuriki column power, Gaara still has a lingering nostalgia. If there is an Onmyoji present at this time, I am afraid that I will be surprised to find that there is a guardian spirit on this child. Mom's love warmed Shira's heart, and Gaara's heart was full of sunshine. I don't need monsters because I have a mom. Out to touch the warmth of the sand, whenever Kimamaro's bone spurs are blocked by the sand shield, the red panda will feel a sweetness in his heart. Look, my mother is watching over me all the time. Wake up, quicksand waterfall. Feet apart and hands clasped together, Gaara with half-closed panda eyes evokes the endless ocean of sand. The dust that rose up at night fell on his head, and Kimamaro was swept in a blink of an eye. Next, pay for this. Sandstorm burial. With both hands hitting the ground heavily, the entire desert ocean trembled wildly. Gaara, who had successfully performed the surgery, was not only not happy, but rather solemn. There was a storm in the sand sea, and the monsters that rose from the ground were covered with bone spurs, and a long tail was thrown behind their backs. No matter how they looked at it, it had nothing to do with humans. Is he a monster too? Orochimaru-sama's will cannot be desecrated, and anyone who dares to defy the will of God will die. Shikatsumyaku, dead bone pulse, dance of the clematis, flower. Stretched out his ridge, Jinchuriki column, and threw it out horizontally, and Gaara, who was stunned by this strange method, was instantly bound inside. If it weren't for the protection of the sand shield, I'm afraid it would have to be broken in two on the spot. The blow failed, Kimamaro was not discouraged, and the right hand that was pulled behind him turned into a whirling cone in the blink of an eye. Dance of the clematis, flower. Shield of Shukaku. The collision between the strongest spear and the strongest escape, the bone with the highest hardness and the shield mixed with underground minerals, the place where the two collided struck an endless knife wind. Feeling the shaking of Shukaku's shield, Kazuo raised his voice again. Let me go out, you're too embarrassing for me, let me out, I can slap him to death with a slap. Damn it, let me out, it's so boring here. Shut up. The mental exchange in his mind was only for a moment, and Gaara, who was pressing down with both hands, had already sunk Kimamaro to the ground. Boundless bone spurs rushed into the sky, and the giant that climbed up from a depth of 200 meters swayed its sharp corners, and the ground was full of bone spurs, as if it came from the wasteland of the White Bone Plain. Kanghai turned into mulberry fields, forests turned into deserts, and the far-reaching fight shocked countless people. Sasuke, is this your choice? There are 2 more chapters, and the cloud will never give up. Text Chapter 86_ Who is the real betrayal in the confrontation between heaven and earth? What is a village? What is a family? Uchiha Itachi, your life is a joke. For the sake of that false peace, you not only gave up your family, but also killed your parents. No matter what reason you have, kill the matter of mother is an unforgivable fault, and I will never forgive you. War and peace are the main themes of the world. Where there are people, there will be struggles, and if people's hearts fight, there will be no real peace in the world. Standing on the top of the sky and looking down at the ground, Uchiha Sasuke turned his eyes away in contempt. Although I am very upset with that guy, I have to admit that he has a pair of eyes that are wiser than anyone else. It is the theorem between heaven and earth. Any attempt to change them will turn into dust under the wheel of history. Quote. Sasuke, everyone has their own knowledge and understanding, but they are bound by them, and they call it reality. But knowledge and understanding are very illusory things. Your so-called reality may only be a mirror image. It's living in self-awareness. Our perception of the world is divided, but that doesn't mean you can go dark. What is darkness? Uchiha Itachi, put away your preaching face, I've had enough of you. 2 lines of fishy, 00, Yuhi's blood and tears flowed from the snow-like pupils, and Sasuke's heart was full of scars. In your eyes, the peace of the village and the world is much higher than that of your family. But you should never forget that your surname is Uchiha. You are nothing if you leave your family. As long as you carry those cursed eyes all day, you cannot escape your fate. The bondage. Will anyone be grateful to you, Itachi, tell me? Looking at his own brother with cold eyes, Sasuke's hatred for him surpassed everything. No one will be grateful to you, and what you do is nothing more than being taken by others. Use. When the clan is dead, who will care who you Uchiha Itachi, except for my brother who has a blood relationship with you, who will care about your life and death. For some people who don't care about your existence at all, I paid my family and paid everything. Uchiha Itachi, you really make me look down. From now on, I will officially remove you in the name of the Uchiha family patriarch. You are no longer worthy of your own. This surname is used before the name. The mainland will not appreciate you, the village will not appreciate you. Your so-called unsung hero is just a joke in the end. Quote. With two slap-like wings undulating against the wind, Sasuke Uchiha raised his right arm high. Itachi, who stood on the ground and looked up at the sky, was speechless, and the two brothers remained silent. Who is right and who is wrong? The world has its own opinions. 10,000 people have 10,000 worldviews. Uchiha Itachi's biggest mistake is to impose his will on others. While playing Sasuke, he was being played by others. There will never be true peace in the world. The wind is blowing and the clouds are flying, and the thunderlight is used to wear through the sunset. Raiden Thunder Style Chidori. Let our hatred end here. For mother, for Uchiha Itachi, you must be judged. Endless hatred condensed endless thunderlight, and Uchiha Sasuke, who fell from the sky, turned into a lightning bolt. The setting sun is like fire, the waves are like fury, and people in Bibo Lake are swimming. Damn stinky boy, I will make you pay for the anger from the shark, and I will tear every piece of your flesh into shreds. Kurigakure weirdo, you look so unworthy of society, you don't need to speak so hard, the facts will prove how stupid you are. Gulu Gulu spat out 2 blisters, and the dark purple ons all over his body plucked out his ears. Kisame Hoshigaki was enraged by his demeanor. A stinky boy who only plays with his lips. Welcome the wrath of the shark, your future is only death. Spiritualism 1000 Food Shark. With a slap in front of him, big green sharks swam out of the smoke that exploded one after another. Each one is 5 or 6 meters long, and it is very long like a ghost shark. Same skin, same mouth, same shark grin, same spiky kiba ghostly. Boy, your time of death is up, give it to me. The big shark with a total of 1,000 grinned and looked at these big guys from all directions, and Liuman took a deep breath. Unhurriedly, he opened his chi mask, took out a packet of poison and sprinkled it out. The dark purple poison bag was thrown into the water, but it exploded into a dark purple poison cloud in a moment. Under the unbelievable gaze of Kisame Hoshigaki, he wrapped the radiant in the blink of an eye. You will release water and I will release poison. Liamong, who was hidden in the poisonous mist, slammed out his right hand. Leave me here, you. Tianluatawong. The azure blue energy shield suddenly spread to the front of the body, and the ghost shark fused with the shark muscle swung away a few times, and the speed was beyond imagination. The main master didn't hold it, and clenched the fist of Liamong who grabbed the pile of big sharks, gave up the control of the skill, and sensed the direction of the ghost shark again. After several turns, watching the psychic beasts whose belly turned white one after another in the poisonous fog, turned into smoke and disappeared, the ghost shark's shark face, which scared people to death, was ugly. Damn stinky boy, it's so disgusting. Kamang, baby, I said don't run away if you have the seeds. If he couldn't catch a trace, he used words to provoke him. Lu Meng thought in his heart, as long as you dare to come in, the young master will have the means to clean up you. The poisonous cloud did not disperse, the blisters did not diminish, and the 2 guys, 1 mile and 1 outside, 1 big and 1 small, were deadlocked with each other. Liamong didn't dare to go out, and the ghost shark didn't dare to come in. It really made a lot of jokes. After 5 minutes of drifting away, Aburame Shino, who had bred countless bad worms, left the hiding place. In the wasteland outside, a monster like a prehistoric crocodile crawled out of the ground. With a body of at least 20 meters in length, every step of the way will bring up a lot of dust. Pale bones, hideous face, no trace of human appearance. What is that thing? During the fight, the corners of their eyes twitched wildly, and the four who entered the second state almost lost their guns. They were shocked, and Shikamaru and the others were no better. Gaara. The high head slammed down, and countless sharp teeth spurted out of the open mouth. The adult arm-like spikes sang a frantic whistle and slammed into the shield of Shukaku towering in front of Kei's cage of the 5th generation. State 3 Mukuro Bone Behemoth. Get used to the faith in your heart and execute the will of God. Your gaze, my direction. Nothing can shake him unless he dies, because this man's clinging to his beliefs has transcended life itself. Life is endless, and the battle is endless. Kimimaro is willing to risk everything for Orochimaru. Give me death. Two pale bone claws lifted high and slammed down, and countless bone spurs sprang out of the ground like weeds. Let me out, you idiot. Let me fight him, it's so crazy, so exciting, how can I be without me at this time? The desert is my home, how can I make a pile of bones stand on and get the upper hand? Damn bastard, do you hear me? I said, shut up for me. Facing the danger of stabbing his feet, facing the giant beast that covered the sky, Gaara jumped from behind the Shukaku shield into the air a little on his toes, and the condensed float stepped on his feet, and embraced his arms to face the strong enemy. Since the day I knew the truth, I didn't need your strength. Because inside me, there is a love stronger than yours. Mom has been watching over me from beginning to end, she never leaves, she is in mine beside me, watching me all the time. Quote. Mother's protection, eternal love. The wind was ups and downs, the yellow sand was furious, and the giant rising from the ground protected Gaara in the palm of his hand, a pair of extremely generous and warm hands. Kankuro turned back. Sister Tamari is stunned. That's their mother. How come? How so? Reaching out his hand to catch the electric light in assistant, Itachi's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. It doesn't matter if you hate me, it's a matter of course for ninjas to live with hatred. However, you are my only brother in this world, as a barrier that you must transcend. I will live with you, even if I will be hated by you, the so-called brother is just like that. Quote. Shut up, don't use your disgusting tone to talk about things. The 2 feet kicked off the restraints of the wrists, and Sasuke, who rolled back and walked away, filled his chest with anger. The place full of deceit and hypocrisy in Konoha is also worth you. Go guard, Itachi, you make me sick. No matter how dark the village is and how many contradictions there are, I am Uchiha Itachi of Konoha. Sasuke, you who don't know how to guard will never understand the meaning of guarding. I will quietly wait for the day you wake up. Shut up. The things worthy of my protection have already been destroyed by you all. Father, mother, family. Itachi, don't confuse the order of things. The parents who gave birth to you, the family who raised you. First Uchiha, and then Konoha. It's hopelessly stupid that you would destroy your own family for the sake of Konoha. Uchiha, my ability is desperate for this boring clan. Such a clan, only small people can be so persistent, but they will lose the really important things. The real change cannot be restricted by rules, premonitions and imaginations, the limitations of the frame. Sasuke, do you understand that? Is this your so-called reason? He laughed wildly and covered his eyes. Uchiha Sasuke was about to die of anger. What nonsense, no matter what you say, can't change the fact that you killed your mother. Itachi, no mother, you couldn't have come into this world. You couldn't have grown up without your family. But you betrayed it all. You, the real betrayal. Ask for a monthly pass. 7th update Chapter 6. It is estimated that it will be late, something happened at home. But it will definitely be updated, between 9 and 11. Text Chapter 87 _ silently entertaining each other like passers-by. Shark face, are you kind of coming in? If you don't come in, you are my grandson. Interesting academy. Once again, the net failed to catch the fish. Liamong angrily pointed his middle finger. Hearing the ridicule coming from the poisonous mist, Kisame Hoshigaki's heart, liver, spleen and lungs were all blocked in his throat, and while he was holding his breath, a disc floated under his feet. Leaning close to look suspiciously, Liamong is so happy now. Banana, you bastard, let's see if you will die this time. Poisonous thunder. With a loud bang, the white-faced silly fish appeared, throwing the shark net with the right hand as a slap in the face. Snapped. OMG, I finally caught you. Street Fighter Brick Attack Poison Shadow Needle Fuhu Overlord Fist. Kisame Hoshigaki, who was overturned by the poisonous thunder, pulled the net in front of him, and the livid light on his face hit him with a brick. That's really called a left cheek beating the right cheek, and the right cheek beating the left cheek. While fighting, he muttered, "You can't be too pretentious, you must be Chen Guangxi, and you don't bring a camera when you open a room. You say that a fool is not a fool. Come on, big shark, don't say that the young master doesn't give you a chance to fight back. If you can get up, I will fight you fairly." After the last punch was wheezing and panting, watching Kisame Hoshigaki slap Yuhi's face with a green face, Yuhi's face stared, the gangster couldn't help laughing. "You're more shy, why can't you shy? Look at that zoo look you look like. If you don't dress up, you look uglier than a ghost, and when you dress up, the ghosts are surrounded by ghosts. Hey, are you still angry?" He raised his foot and kicked down and lowered his head to ask. Liamong, who couldn't get an answer, kicked again. "Hey. What about you, are you angry?" "It's over, it seems that this time people really killed people." He aimed. "What can I do? Why don't you dig a hole and bury it?" "Where to bury it?" Pinch the chin and turn around. Thinking about it, the gangster finally came up with a good place for the dog kennel. "Well, this doghouse is good. It can be used to open doors when alive, and can be used to guard graves when dead. Yes, this is the place." After thinking about the place to be buried, he took out a sharp-pointed iron pickaxe, and the gangster turned around. The shark face opened his eyes, and the two mung-bean-sized Byakugan beads were full of Yuhi bloodshots. "Damn bastard, I must." Boom. "Must be what? If you're dead, you're dead. What do you do when you get up and blow up the corpse?" At the beginning of the draft, he vomited 3 liters of blood on the head, and looking at the big shark that fell down again, Liuman nodded with satisfaction, and buried his head in the dry when he found a place. Dig a hole, bury some soil, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and simply do a striptease. Oh ghost shark, death is like a lamp extinguished, life does not bring it, and death does not bring it. Mobile phone reading is more convenient. m.heyhey168.com. I see you come naked. It is better to leave naked. I will laugh at all of these things, mister. Well, this is good, this is also good. It can be exchanged for a lot of good things. Money, these are all money. The bastard who eats and wipes his eyes clean, and cuts people into naked pigs laughs. Countless black dots climbed to the sky, and the 4 people who felt the darkness above their heads raised their heads. What are those things? Why do I have a bad feeling? Kidamaru. Insects, those are all bugs. He blurted out with an unbelievable exclamation, and the guards at the east gate were so frightened that their souls flew out of the sky. Left near. To Yuya. Jirobo. The eyes of the Otobuker quartet were all wide open. How many little things were there? It finally worked. 1 2 3 4 showed a smile, and Shikamaru, who had reached the battle plan, let out a long sullen breath, and quietly made a face to his teammates. What is this guy calculating? With beautiful big eyes kaba twice, Tamari turned her head to look behind the tree. Akamaru, a human-beast hybrid transformation. I'm going to eat meat after fighting them. Two-headed wolf. Ninja techniques _ The white giant wolf roaring up to the sky grinned Kiba. The 2 big heads on the left and the right looked hideous. The giant fat man licked his big face and raised his legs like a mountain of meat. Jirobo, block them. There are worms in the sky and attacks on the ground. Zuo Jin, who felt that the future was not good, gave an order, and just as the words blurted out, a rain of needles like a cow's hair shot in front of him. That pesky puppet master again. Dodging and dodging the sneak attack, Examen, who could not find Konkuro, was very anxious. As for Kimimaro, why is Kimimaro so slow this time? One after another, the spider webs spit into the air, and the spider webs that fell one after another were full of black dots, which made the scalp explode. Kitamaru, who felt the chakra dwindling sharply, reminded sharply, there are too many. We must quit. Back, where to back? Looking at the pineapple-headed commander who killed 1,000 knives in the middle of the enemy group, Zuo Jin, who has suffered a lot, is not sure. Shino, what are you doing? Don't be nervous, they won't bite you. One after another, the black bugs flew in front of him, and Naruto Uzumaki's eyes suddenly widened into two big ones. No, quickly remove them. The bad parasites flying around and rushing towards the spider web, the shrill screams resounded through the sky, and the howls were endless like killing pigs. Aburame Shino, who pushed his glasses, had black lines all over his forehead. How long are you going to scream? Opened his eyes twice, touched his chest up, and touched his thighs. Naruto jumped high when he realized that he was fine. I'm fine, I'm really fine. Those damn bastards, what do I do? Pack them up. Shut up kid, you don't make a draft for bragging. It's really a shame for us toads to sign a contract with you. Toji, don't look down on people, I tell you, I have a lot of interests. Is it worth waiting for someone to save you? Toji, who stretched out his webbed claws, was like a little finger, and his face was full of contempt. Uzumaki Naruto was angry at the time, and he lowered his body and started to dry. Toji stared at the bird like Naruto, and it scattered into blue smoke. Stupid, brother won't serve you anymore, what's the matter with love? After losing a quarreling opponent, thinking about the embarrassing incident of being trapped just a moment ago, Naruto, who swore revenge to the lamp, rolled up his arms and folded his sleeves with a small face, and walked forward with a crab step. Shino looked around blankly, and it took him a long time to react, that Naruto, the enemy is over there. Over there, stiffly looking forward, then back, Naruto scratched the back of his head with a ha-ha, ah-ha-ha, of course I know it's over there. I just want to go to the toilet, yes, I want to go to the toilet. Quote. Go to the toilet, why didn't you say you were going to hang yourself? A middle finger was raised high, and the Mukuro bone beast above the wasteland kept roaring. Facing Gaara floating in the air, Kimimaro who was standing on the ground roared. Uchiha Itachi narrowed his eyes as he avoided the attack again. In the village of Konoha, various forces entered the venue one after another. Jiraiya, according to Shiranui Genma Yamashiro Aoba, Orochimaru is most likely not dead. We should have thought about this a long time ago, how could someone like him end so easily? This message must be blocked, at least not until the end of this ceremony. The outside world can't know, we Konoha can't afford to lose this person. Toad stared at the two old guys with twitching eyes, and the lecherous immortal kept scolding inwardly. Shame is not caused by you. I disagreed with the release of the news in the first place, not yet. Bang, bang. Come in. Lord Hokage, the name is here, along with Princess Senju Tsunade. What? She really came. Although she had long been informed that Tsunade would come, Jiraiya only realized how complicated her mood was when she actually arrived. Two bullock carts drove into Konoha. Tsunade Haim in Chinese clothes was holding a fan, and the big yuhi dress on his body was very eye-catching. It's been nearly 30 years, but I didn't expect this place to be so familiar. Looking at the familiar images outside through the car window, the legendary fat sheik closed her eyes tightly, not wanting people to see the tears in her eyes. There are too many familiar sights, too many unforgettable stories. But what is connected with these scenes and stories is the unforgettable hatred. The ox cart slowly passed by the gate of Hyuga's house. Hinata pulled Enko's sleeve nervously, his face low on his chest. Feeling timid near the nostalgia, returning to this village again, the little secretary was very worried. Parents, family, friends, how are they doing after being away for so long? Don't be afraid, little girl, with your sister here, no one can make things difficult for you. Sister Anko, I'm fine, I just don't know what happened to my brother. Hinata, who hasn't seen Liamong for more than 2 weeks, has never been separated for such a long time, full of thoughts. Slightly stunned, Mitarashi Anko giggled, You really can't leave him for a moment. I'm just, the little secretary who twisted his fingers shyly, unable to explain. Yuhi fluttered like a little overripe apple. Tsunade, who was opened by Shizune, left the carriage. Not far from the car, 2 old guys, Kaharu Udatane Homura Mitokado, bowed and saluted, and Jiraiya waited by the side with a serious face. The reception was like a routine, there was no unnecessary words between each other, the stranger was like a passerby, maybe she shouldn't come back. Tsunade-sama, walked into the house arranged by Konoha, and Shizune Kato called out unwillingly. Forget it, I didn't plan to stay here anyway, don't care about their attitude. But they're too much. Excessive. Thinking of what happened in the past, Senju Tsunade laughed at himself, this is just the beginning. Chapter 7, There is someone at home, it's really noisy. I came at 7 o'clock and left at 9:30. Hey, it won't be so late tomorrow. Text Chapter 88_ The separation of sunlight looking back to the sky. We are on. Mobile reading is more convenient. m.heihei168.com. Appearance of Naruto Shino, Shikamaru gave the final attack order. With the control of the insect master himself, the parasitic worms all over the sky rushed down. Countless cobwebs tangled back and forth, and Guidomaru's mouth had no time to spare. But no matter how much it spit out, it would be eaten up by endless insects in the blink of an eye. Pieces of cobwebs fell to the ground and covered with a thick layer. It looked disgusting and made the scalp numb. Goosebumps all over the body when I glanced at it. I can't take it anymore. Me too. Emergency, and Jirobo was also shot on the ground by the 2-headed wolf and Choji. The 2 guys, tall and big like a small city wall, stepped on the transformed south gate under their feet. If you step on them, I will crush them, jumping happily. I want to eat barbecue. Wong. I want to eat sweet potatoes. Wow. I'm going to feed. Kiba, can you say something human? The raised Bigfoot stomped hard on the ground. Choji glanced angrily beside him. The 2-headed giant wolf wished he could bite him. What shall we do? That woman's magic restrains my voice, and there is nowhere to hide. Holding the flute in his hand, he glanced at the woman who was staring at him. Duoyu was also inexplicably sad and angry. Little girl, your technique won't work in front of me. Sangsing Fan stared at his opponent with a smirk. Tamari narrowed his eyes brightly. Shikamaru, who hardly made any attacks, became confident. The 4 guys on the opposite side were no different from them at first. When the pattern appeared on his face, his strength increased 5 or 6 times, and when he became a ghost, it increased to dozens of times. Although it is only an increase in the amount of chakra, the destructive power brought by it at the same time cannot be underestimated. But fortunately, both Kiba and Choji in this formation have secret techniques, and in comparison, the gap is not too big. The long-range attack was solved by the woman next to him and the hiding puppet master, and the most troublesome Spider-Man was pinned down by Shino. Now the new force Naruto arrives, as long as he can take the opportunity to immobilize the enemy with shadow imitation. Then the battle will come to an end. Team battle, the competition is still the trump card. Although I don't know if the other party has a backhand, but in terms of the current scene, it has nothing to do with the overall situation. To be able to win such a battle and to ensure the survival of several parties, it seems that you can buy a lottery ticket when you go back. Naruto, what are you waiting for? Got it, it's long-winded. Baidu Interesting Academy. In his head is Shadow Clone and Psychic, Uzumaki Naruto, who also turns into a Saiyan from time to time, stinks his face and rubs his nose hard, dare to dare. Look down on me, bastards, I am the man who will become Hokage. Now, let you see, my ninja posts. The art of shadow clone shuriken in all directions. Shino has enough bugs. Naruto also has a lot of shuriken, and the figure burst out like a hornet's nest. Wow, screaming and throwing a kunai. After a few hand seals, the locusts flooded the sky and covered the earth. To the enemy group. Looking at these pervert-like things, it seemed that the 4 people in the battlefield were all Spartans, and even Choji and Kiba ran away. Naruto, do you have goldfish in your head? Why are you even fighting with us? Roar. The 2 heads were raised in the air, and there were a lot of kunai 2-headed wolves stuck on their buttocks. I really wanted to rush over and kill the yellow-haired boy. With a wide grin, Uzumaki Naruto's face was hand seal again. Just as the group of 4 hiding behind the earth wall was about to act, a bunch of black shadows connected to their feet. What happened? Why can't I move? Although it is very reluctant to control 4 people at once, but after a series of battles, you must be almost the same. Shadow mimicry succeeded. Slowly getting up and crooking his neck, Shikamaru, who was fighting for 4, smiled, deal with them. I advise you best not to act rashly, otherwise I'll kill him. The half-pulled head protruded from his chest, and the right side with a sharp horn on the top of his forehead grinned grimly. Temari Naruto, who was about to start, stopped, and Kiba and Choji, who were transforming, also lost their thoughts. Is this their hidden trump card? How could that guy have such a strange ability? Shikamaru raised his mind about the over-budget change. Right near the grimace turned his head grimly, and stared at Shino maliciously. Do you feel incredible? This is my ability. Everyone's body is made up of countless cells. Bones, internal organs, skin, hair, etc. This is so. There are many kinds of chakra meridians around these various cells. When I become state 2, I can dissolve my body into any living thing through chakra changes. Speaking of which, it's not you that I want to catch, it's that annoying puppet master. The hostages are in hand, the ninjas of Konoha Sunagakure. We can have a good talk. Talk about what? As if the monster on his chest didn't grow out of his body, he pushed his sunglasses, but Aburame Shino's expression didn't change. I was stunned for a moment. Your ability is very strange and terrifying. If ordinary people encounter it, there may be no way to deal with it. But I'm sorry, before entering this body, I'm afraid you didn't know my identity. The cold light flashed under the dark glasses, and Shino looked up at the sky with a bit of disappointment. My surname is Aburame, I come from the hidden Konoha family, and I am an insect master of the insect repellent family. Since birth, my body has been regarded as a parasite. The worm's lair. If you can get into the worm's body, you win the battle. If you can't. Countless black spots pierced through the skin, from the face, from the hands, from the arms, from the chest, and the parasites spread all over the body, covering the whole body like a tide. The panic-stricken and wailing Eugen struggled to escape to the outside world, but he had only just made contact, and his fate was already doomed. The crazy insect swarm devoured everything recklessly under the command of the insect master. They used the enemy's body as a breeding ground and the enemy's chakra as a nourishment, and completed a short journey from birth to death in a short period of time. The life of a swarm is short-lived, but the damage they cause is eternal. When the wailing ended, the swarm drifted away, leaving nothing but nothingness, and the emptiness was terrifying. 4 people. Konoha Xiaoqiang. Sunagakure reinforcements. The ninjas who witnessed this scene with their own eyes swallowed their saliva and looked at Shino inevitably with vigilance. Is that the case again? Raising his hand and pushing his sunglasses, looking at the clouds in the sky lonely, the insect master's heart is full of bitterness. Just as Shino was bemoaning his loss, a slap slapped him on the shoulder. Hey! You are good. Are all those bugs raised by you? Where did you hide them? Here. Here. Pulling the sleeves and pulling the collar again, Uzumaki Naruto jumped up and down curiously. A gust of warm wind blew through his heart, and the insect master smiled. The evening wind passed, the boundless sand waves undulating, and the giant beast standing in the Mukuro Bone wasteland roared in the sky. God's will not be blocked by the distance between heaven and earth. Sandstorm Gara, I, who undertake the mission of God, can also spread my wings and soar. Sasuke, it's time to speed up this battle. Curse Seal 3 Mukuro Bone Dragon. Mangekyo Susanoo. The pale bone wings that crunched changed and extended, slowly undulating and flying into the air, and Kimamaro's head, which evolved from a crocodile into a dragon, rushed towards the opposite side. The huge hand made entirely of yellow sand slapped the middle of the forehead with a slap, and the bone dragon's tail that changed direction swept away a large area of dim yellow, and kept rushing into the distance. Sasuke, go and complete your mission, he handed it over. Gave it to me. Kimamaro, who has evolved to the third curse mark, confronts Susanoo without a hitch and attacks. Glancing sideways at his younger brother who walked away without any intention of looking back, Uchiha Itachi hula scattered into a crow flying in the sky. Sasuke. Standing tall in the treetops and looking at the setting sun, the boy who seemed to be flying into the sun turned his head. The sunlight turned back, and Naruto, who was illuminated by the dazzling light, couldn't see his face, and the blurred young man waved his wings decisively. Fix them. At the clear sky from a distance, Shikamaru issued an order to kill the group of 4. Swarm. Giant wolf. Strong wind. Black ants. A steady stream of saturated attacks from all directions turned Orochimaru's guards into history in the blink of an eye. Looking down, Kimamaro, who glanced coldly at the corpse, flew into the sky. Retreat. Shikamaru. I said, retreat. Uchiha Sasuke's defection is a foregone conclusion, and there is no point in continuing to pursue at this time. Clenching his fists and looking back at the setting sun, Naruto Uzumaki clenched the Kiba Pass, full of remorse and self-blame. Have you finished your business? Holding a ring in his hand, he raised his head, and Liamong blew at the face of the ring. Kimamaro, who had dispelled the spell, leaned aside and nodded. Sasuke Uchiha has gone back to look for Orochimaru. Sama, where shall we go next? Konoha. The polished ring was aimed at the sun, looking at the south character on it, and the corners of his mouth twitched with a smile. I just don't know if he really entered the village, whether those old guys will die of anger. Who cares? Anyway, Grandpa doesn't care. Let's go, the road is still far away. Patting his butt, he stood up and yawned. When Liamong was rushing towards Konoha, the lecherous fairy also got the message. Homura Mitokado Kaharu Udatane's face changed when he saw the information sent back by the expedited eagle. What is that scourge going to do? One of the 7 shifts, the cloud will be updated anyway. Text Chapter 89_Unexpected Guest, Bad Guy, Good Woman. You are. Hello. It's easier to read on mobile phones. M.Heihei168.com, swaggered into Konoha with a Kiba sign in his mouth, and Liamong waved to Kamizuki Azumo to say hello. What are you doing here? Azumo's face was heavy, like iron. Enla, they're all acquaintances, don't be so outspoken. The bastard who touched it in his arms and took a long time to find out the certificate handed it over. Taking a look, Konoha's famous door god suddenly opened his mouth. See, we are people with ID cards now. This, I have to report to Lord Hokage. What? How did he get this status when he was enshrined in the Daming Mansion? The faces of the 2 old dry bacha were dead and ugly, and they stared at Kamizuki Azumo, Kaharu Udatane Homura Mitokado. If there was not a trace of rational control left, I am afraid I would have to grab the neck on the spot and ask, do you know what worship is? To worship is to have a very high status, not to do anything. Don't call him if you have something, and don't call him the eldest man if you have nothing. From ancient times to the present, there are only a handful of people who can have such an identity, and each of them is a prosperous character. Higa Hinang, the rotten wood, is worthy of being offered to him by the Daming House. This is his code. Does the big name also keep goldfish in his head? The identity certificate doesn't seem like a forgery, and the gold number plate doesn't seem like a forgery. As soon as he turns into a gangster of the upper class, he turns around and leaves with laughter. Wait, your identity is fine, what about him? Kimamaro's appearance has already been confirmed through previous information, and Kamizuki Izumo, who knows that the boy in front of him has a relationship with Orochimaru, will of course not let it go. Coldly reaching into his arms, he took out a piece of proof that the identity of the guardian of Tianjiguo was slapped on the door like a brick. Kamizuki Izumo looked at the proof in his hand, and then looked at the young man in front of him, disgusting, and really wanted to take out the kunai. Brother, I'm not telling you, it's not good to work too seriously. We're here to sell something, so there's no need to be so nervous. He took back the 2 ID cards and stuffed them in Kimamaro, then the whistleblower threw it away. 8-figure steps. Hearing a familiar tone from a distance, the little secretary opened the door and rushed out. With a muffled sound, seeing the little girl with little face Yuhi pouting her feet under the eaves, her Liuman's face immediately blossomed with joy. Sister Hinata misses me, come and let my brother hug me. The two rushed to the front and hugged the little secretary in their arms, and the Liuman, who turned around for several times, was full of happiness. Sitting down, holding the struggling Hinata in his arms, the bastard with his chin resting on his shoulders bit his ears lightly. Did you think about my brother? Think. Interesting academy. How much do you think? Think. Laughed and let go of the shy little secretary, and Mitarashi Anko, who was sitting opposite, turned the Byakugan fiercely. In 3 days, it will be the Hokage succession ceremony. When are you going to hold the auction? Of course, the sooner the better. By the way, how about the people who came this time? If there are fewer people, we won't be able to sell at a high price. There are a lot of people here, but in the 5 major countries, only daimyo of the Kingdom of Wind and Kazekage, the 5th generation of eyes, are personally there. The rest are sent to attend by dignitaries, and the leader of the small country is here. Hokage's succession ceremony, it's a good time to hug your thighs. It's normal to come together. The map cannon was full of ridicule, and Lu Meng suddenly remembered something. What is Sister Tsunade doing recently? Sister, elder sister, look at the intimacy you call. Anko poured himself a cup of tea angrily, pushed him over the table after thinking about it. Drink you to death. Recently Tsunade-sama is visiting everywhere, and I don't think she's in high spirits. I don't care whether it's high or not. Take a rest, send invitations in the evening, and officially start tomorrow morning. Is it a little too eager? Anko breathed warmly while holding the teacup. Liamong laughed, took out 2 bottles of reagents and held them in his hands. Urgent, they are in a hurry. Let's go, let's take a bath. Up the hairy Hinata, she ran out of the room, looking at the corridor a little silly, wanting to touch the cheap Liuman. Where is the bathroom? In. The grumbled when Izumi kept spitting water, and the temperature of the water, which was close to 40, was slightly hot. But as long as you get used to it a little, there will be an indescribable enjoyment, as if the whole person's soul is being relieved. Brother, changed his clothes and pulled the bathrobe, Hinata murmured in a low voice and didn't know what to do. Looking at the little secretary standing outside the pool, the gangster got up and walked closer. The figure of Dada came to stand beside him from far and near, his eyes swept away. Hinata's little secretary hurriedly turned his head away, too embarrassed to look again. Come on, let's go into the water. Gently pulled up her little hand and walked into the pool. The slightly soupy pool water overflowed over the instep, and the little girl turned into Yuhi color. Drenched in the rain of apricot blossoms, he pulled the little secretary and walked inside Liamong and sat down first. Hinata pulled the top of the towel at a loss, neither standing nor sitting, just dazed and dazed. Just when the gangster was about to make the next move, the door hula was pulled aside. Mitarashi Anko. He stared at the uninvited bastard with fire-breathing eyes. Lu Meng really wanted to turn into a world cannon and launch her dynamic. Yo, you two are there too. Yuhi, Sister Anko. Mitarashi Anko, who pinched his waist and tugged at the head rope, shook his hair. The blue-purple hair on the temple swayed lightly, and it was strangely refreshing. Can't you come back later? Why are you late? I'm tired. After taking a bath, I can sleep. Do you know how immoral you are? What is morality? Is it delicious? Mitarashi Anko. Hey, stinky boy, what are you calling my sister to do? Smiling, he probed his feet to test the water temperature. Anko, who felt good, went into the water. Compared with the shyness of Hinata's little secretary, Anko, who was a big-hearted man, didn't care about that. The snow-white bathrobe went into the water as soon as he pulled it, and the gangster's eyes were straight. Millet-colored healthy skin, too peach-like soft, firm belly, straight pink legs. Does it look good? It looks good. Do you still want to see it? Think. I miss you, you big bastard. Picking up a wet towel and smashing it on the forehead, Anko violently pulled Hinata to his side. You have to be careful in the future, don't accidentally get smeared. Brother treats me well. Forehead and looking at the hopeless little secretary, Anko, who was completely defeated, untied the bathrobe around her, and gave Liamong a stern look while undoing it. The tender pink back is eye-catching. How can Liuman manage others? Scratching his ears and scratching his cheeks, he wants to pay his side. Hinata, who didn't dare to look up, buried her head in Anko's chest and hugged her two white bodies together, dazzling. Then do you want towels? Don't. Then do you want juice? Neither. That. Straight body at the bottom of the water, it grabbed the slowly moving stream, and Mitarashi Anko smiled like a flower, and the two eyes were squinted. The gangster leader, who wanted to cry without tears, looked at the smug cheap sister opposite. The fire in his heart rushed to his forehead. Seeing Liamong stand up and seem to be coming over, Anko's smiling expression immediately turned cold. What do you want to do? I want to go to the toilet. Embarrassed, he rushed out of the bathroom. Listening to the unstoppable giggling behind him, the gangster realized that his skin was still too thin. If this is not possible. After successfully forcing Liamong away and pulling Hinata up to sit up, Anko, who was leaning on the edge of the stone platform, sighed, Little girl, why do you like such a guy? I don't see anything good about him. I'm lazy, my head is stupid, and I'm not particularly brave. Brother's hands are very broad and strong. Little Brain lifted her milky white pupils lightly, and the little secretary's eyes were full of tenderness. The most important thing is that holding those hands and never letting go will make people feel more at ease. Sister Anko, being able to follow her brother is the greatest happiness in Hinata's life. Felt a little uncomfortable with the cold wind blowing just after soaking in when Izumi. Mitarashi Anko, who killed 1,000 knives, how many times did she arrive in time every time she wanted to get close to the little secretary? This woman is too lacking in eyesight. Is it easy for me? Closing his eyes and recalling the image he had just hurriedly glanced at, the gangster's heart immediately became hot. The dry heat that had just been blown away by the cold wind burned to the top of his head again. No, I have to find a place to defeat the fire. After wearing a snow-white cloak, he walked out of the courtyard, and when he opened the door, Liamong was stunned. Outside the door that was pushed open, Haruno Sakura Yamanaka Ino, two beautiful girls standing side by side. The raised little hand paused in the air, stunned outside the door. You are. Can I go out and sit down? Shangji Yu Murin was walking in the constantly flowing street, and the three people who found a secluded corner nearby ordered a few cakes, and 3 cups of hot tea were placed in front of him for a long time without a word. Haruno Sakura raised her head. The little girl's eyes were full of tears. Where did Sasuke go? I heard that you met when Shikamaru led the team to pursue. You still. We were rivals at that time. He took 2 sips of the hot tea that was about to cool, and let out a long, sullen breath. In a deal, Orochimaru needs Sasuke, and I need a woman. How can you do this? Sasuke is our teammate, how can you do it for a woman? On the 2nd day of the 7th shift, the cloud will quickly code the words and work hard together. Text chapter 90 _ the first auction item, the rogue who harms people. Just what, Haruno Sakura, I never admitted that Urdu was my teammate. Deadwood Liamong, you. The teacup put to his mouth was slowly put down. The gang leader looked at Sakura, then looked at Ino, got up to check out, pushed the door and left. The raised curtain swayed back and forth, and Haruno Sakura, with tears in her eyes, threw herself into her friend's arms. How could he be like this? Okay. Sasuke's decision to leave is also his own decision, and we can't help it. We are all gone, and we are the only ones left in the village. You. Looking at the back of Liamong's departure with a lonely expression, the girl with blonde hair and drooping shoulders held the teacup. The tea was bitter and astringent. Walking in the crowded night market, the gangster went to the stall. Hinata likes to eat cinnamon rolls, Enko likes to eat balls. Well, this, and this, give me a copy. Reaching out and ordering a few good-looking snacks, Liuman rarely took out the money, and hurried back to the hospital as soon as the food was out of the pot. On the way, villagers from 3-1 gangs and 2-1 gangs gathered together, talking indifferently. Perhaps it is the reason why the Hokage succession ceremony is about to start, and most of the topics of their debate revolve around it. There are those who reminisce about the past and those who imagine the future. It really makes people laugh when they hear it. Who should have something to do with Hokage? It's really earning money to sell cabbage and thinking about selling white flour, and it's not too tired to panic all day long. Shaking his head and hurried back to the cross courtyard, Liamong opened the door. When he entered the door, Sister Hinata, Sister Enko, come out and eat something good. If you don't come out, I'll eat it by myself. Stinky boy, you have the heart. Taking the paper bag and opening it, Mitarashi Enko even complimented people with stubborn stubble. The little secretary with a sneering smile was sitting by the window, the starlight shining on the soft hair. There was a kind of beauty that was hard to look at. That Enko sister, look at me tonight. No, the mouth filled with meatballs bulged out 2 small bags. Seeing the fox's tail finally exposed by the gangster, Mitarashi Enko refused mercilessly. After thinking about it for a long time, the trick that I came up with was broken. Honey, it's getting late, you should go back to sleep, I'll give you a pillow to hug. The duck feather pillow tucked into his arms hugged his chest. Looking at the door slamming shut in front of him, the bastard opened his mouth, biting when he wanted to cry without tears. I bite hard, I bite hard. With Enko's body fragrance into his mouth, he returned to the hut with a stern look, his eyes fixed on the roof of the shed in awe. The next day will be clear in the early morning, and I don't know which house's plague chicken is honking. It doesn't matter what his voice is, the whole Konoha's chickens, ducks, geese, dogs and cats all barked, and it was like a water and land conference. Don't make a fuss with him. The pillow that he held in his arms for the night fell and flew. Liamong bit Kiba's teeth and tightened the shoelaces, ran into the kitchen and rushed out with a kitchen knife. Enko, who came over yawning, looked a little stunned. What are you doing with a knife in the early morning? Kill the chicken. Kill chickens. Kill what chickens? It's the chicken that was called just now, Liamong said while waving his kitchen knife. Enko burst out laughing. Stinky boy, you're so funny. You're such a big guy, and you're fighting a chicken. Who told him not to let me sleep, to spare people's dreams, to make money and kill them? I must slaughter it today. Okay, go kill it, don't forget to buy breakfast when you come back. Nodding ruthlessly, carrying a kitchen knife and going out, the plague chicken, which caused the gangster's infinite resentment, still failed to kill in the end. It's not that Liamong doesn't want to kill it, but the guy was already dead when he found it. Guest officer, how much do you want? My chicken is not ordinary. 5 yuan a piece, buy 5 yuan and get 1 free piece, it is definitely a big supplement. Men take aphrodisiac, women take contraception. I think you are not too young. Do you want some? It's cheap, look how big this chicken head is. With a big Yuhi crown was turned in front of him, and Liamong, who was holding a kitchen knife in his hand, really wanted to chop people. Are you really able to get pregnant with your chicken? Of course it's true, but it's still fake. Eat my chicken. I promise you are stronger than dragons, stronger than tigers, and mice can dance if you eat them. The spit splattered all over his face and wiped it with his hands. He stared straight at the uncle who was running the train with his mouth full of blood for a long time, and Liamong took out the kitchen knife. The uncle who sold the chicken was dumbfounded. Can you still use contraception? The uncle shook his head. Would you like another $5 a dollar? The uncle shook his head again. Boom! He stomped the kitchen knife on the table, and Liamong glanced at the stunned crowd around him and took out his wallet. What are you looking at? Pretend it to me. Ah, good. I'll put it on for you, and I'll put it on for you right away. $5 a piece of chicken was put into the bag, and the gangster counted the 2 bills and pulled out the kitchen knife, shaking the knife and asking, is this money enough? Not enough. Enough or not enough? Enough, enough. Nodding his head, he quickly dismissed this warm heart. Is it easy for me to sell chickens in the morning? Moved chicken seller, Liamong returned to Kuoyuan to have breakfast with Hinata Anko Meimei. While picking Kiba, he knocked on Tsunade's door. The two of them murmured for a long time and hurried to Hokage's office. That's why you came to Konoha. Why don't you think? Rubbing his fingers for a moment, he asked the 2 Gugu who beside his eyes. Lu Meng was not polite to them at all. I want to borrow a place to hold an auction, and it's not that I won't give money, you have no reason to refuse. Zhang is the warrant issued by the big name, and we are in a cooperative relationship this time. Quote. Why was there no notice in advance? Such a big auction cannot be properly arranged for a while. It doesn't matter, there is a place, and the things we sell are different from others. Ordinary people are afraid that no one will buy them when they sell things, and Liamong is not worried about selling them at all. Jiraiya fixed her eyes on Senju Tsunade who was standing next to her for a long time, and nodded slowly in response to the request. Regardless of the relationship between the two parties, now is not the time for conflict. And in terms of identity, Liamong Tsunade is not much lower than him. Because of the reagents, the gangster got a title of worship in the daimyo. Senju Tsunade originally had the status of a princess. In the face of lecherous immortals, there is no need to be polite. As for the 2 immortal guys next to them, they don't even have the qualifications to interject. Identity, what a good thing. Gaara, what do you think of this? Tamari's eyes were full of doubts when the invitation from the gang leader was placed on the table. The little panda looked at the invitation, thought about the chaos that happened a few days ago, and closed his eyes. Go. Gaara sets off. Tamari Kankuro accompanies him. He has always regarded Sunagakure village as a thorn in the flesh, and the daimyo of the Kingdom of Wind, who can't wait to get rid of it, is close behind. The 2 people with the highest status moved their nests, and the rest of the forces also appeared. Liamong, who was standing on the roof of the ninja school, grinned. Money, these are all money. Well, they're all money. Senju Tsunade pursed the corners of his mouth as his beautiful big eyes flashed. Suddenly, the gangster who had a bad premonition turned his head, always feeling that something bad was about to happen. The beginning of the auction, dignitaries from all over the world were seated. At the front, the famous names of the Kingdom of Wind and the Kingdom of Fire were seated next to each other. Gaara and Jiraiya were seated on both sides. Difference. In addition to participating in the Hokage succession ceremony, the main purpose of hostile forces such as Kumogakure village is actually to seek intelligence, otherwise people will not come so together. Wearing a cloak and walking to the podium, Lu Meng, coughing twice, took out the first piece of equipment to be auctioned today, and the crowd who saw this piece of equipment suddenly burst into an uproar. What the hell is that kid on stage doing? Can you sell just that pair of broken shoes? The noisy crowd exploded in an instant. It wasn't because they were not well characterized. It was because the equipment Liuman took was too irritating. Who can sit here, which is not a representative of one party, but look at what that stinky boy on the stage brought out. He actually came out with a pair of broken shoes. The big black leather toe caps open the door at the front, split at the back, and the old man's cart hangs upside down with wax. Even this thing can be put up for auction. Maybe it was picked up from the garbage pit. The roar of discussion came into his ears. Liamong raised his little finger and buckled his ears, and when they were almost quarreling, he put his shoes on the table. Don't be surprised, everyone, I really found these shoes from the garbage pit. But the teasing eyelids blinked, and the gangster head touched the roof with one foot, making everyone stunned. First he took out a pair of broken shoes, and then he touched the roof of the shed. What the hell is this kid doing? Are you guys surprised by what I'm doing? There are many super strong people among them. You should have noticed whether I used enough force just now. Those shoes. Don't tell me I don't know. I was startled when I said it. Garajiraya stared at the table for a moment, squinting at the pair of broken shoes. Enchanted cat demon. These ragged leather shoes with magic power can make anyone have cat demon-like jumping power. No matter ninja or ordinary people, as long as they wear these shoes, they can jump as high as me. The reason why I choose such junk is to prove that there is no fake. Well, the auction can start now. Get out a wooden hammer, bang. Boom. After knocking on the podium twice, Lu Meng glanced from left to right for a week. The base price of 500,000 taels of magical broken leather shoes. Please bid for the audience. Each time you increase the price, it must not be less than 50,000 taels. 7 more 3. There are 4 chapters. Text chapter 91 _ stunned that their appearance made history. I give out 600,000 taels. Heihei168.com. After a moment of silence, the dignitary of Kaoyan village took the lead in bidding, and little I looked back and forth unpreparedly, becoming the first person to eat crabs. 600,000 taels. 600,000 taels can buy a pair of broken shoes with magic power. Do you want to have the jumping power of a cat demon? Don't you get caught by the police when you want to cut people? As long as you buy these shoes, nothing is a problem. Quote. Grabbing the shoelaces as a meteor hammer, the broken leather shoes banged and pressed against the table, and the gangster's eyes were full of golden light. But 10 seconds passed. No one bids. 20 seconds have passed. Still no one bids. When the 1 minute had passed and the dignitaries of Kaoyan village were excited, a dignitary from the Kingdom of Bears suddenly opened his mouth, breaking the asking price into 3 digits with just one mouth. 1 million. 3 very simple words, plain and unremarkable, have sparked riots. $1.5 million, and we, Takian village, gave $1.5 million. Is Takian village amazing? Our land of the land gave 1.8 million. 185,000. 190,000. 2 people collided with 000 together and spit fire in their eyes. Takian village can survive the 4 countries to this day. Naturally, it has a strength that cannot be ignored. Others are afraid of the 5 great powers, but they are not. With the protection of a natural giant waterfall and a unique ninjutsu that adapts to local conditions, it is definitely not something that can be broken by any country alone. Seeing that the ninjas of Takian village were not giving face, the dignitaries of the land immediately turned their attention to the representative of Iwagakure village. 2 million. There is no choice but to come forward to bid. The relationship between the hidden village and the country is always so delicate. Seeing Iwagakure village ninjas come forward, Takian village ninjas lost their temper immediately. The strength is not as good as human, although he is not afraid of Iwagakure village, but he is afraid of the ninjas of Iwagakure village. If this makes people angry and turns around and ambush himself, it will be bad luck. The uneconomical business cannot be done, and with the withdrawal of the ninja Takigakura, the venue was silent for a short time. When the atmosphere turned cold, Lu Meng, who wanted to make a fortune and wanted to go crazy, began to flicker again. 2 million friends. Interesting academy. Do you want to peep at the women's bathroom and not get caught? Do you want to steal other people's watermelons and not get beaten? Hurry up and raise the price. As long as you add 50,000 taels, you can become a superhuman existence. The Cat Demon brand big toe leather shoes is the most ideal choice in your mind. Friends, what are you waiting for? Wait. First class. Second class. Waiting. waiting for the radiant smile to fade away, but helplessly lifted the hammer into the air, looking down the field with anticipation. Why don't these people raise prices? 2 million big torn leather shoes are not too expensive, and anyone below can easily take them out. The reason why they didn't increase the price was because they were waiting for a pair of broken leather shoes to have such a magical ability. It was definitely not a simple character. Through a pair of shoes, no one will feel disadvantaged by making friends with such a person. Waiting left and right, waiting for no one to raise the price, Liamong slammed the hammer unwillingly. 2 million for the first time, 2 million for the first time, is there any friend who bids higher? A pair can make your leather shoes with cat-like jumping ability or in front of you, don't you want to be moved? Heart is not as good as action, action is not fast, open your mouth, wear your big broken leather shoes home. Quote. The very tempting shouts spread all over the place, and there was no movement in the silence below. Hammers sounded again, and the gangster was a little anxious. 2 million for the second time, 2 million for the second time, the opportunity is not to be missed. Is there a friend who has a higher bid? If not, this pair of broken leather shoes with magical powers, it will be owned by Iwagakure village. Well, since there are no friends who continue to bid, then I will announce that I have the power of the cat demon. I'll pay 10 million. Who pays 10 million? Sitting upright in an instant, he turned his head in unison. Raising her right hand high, the woman with a soft voice smiled and nodded to the 4 directions. Yuhi-colored skin, gray-white hair, high-root leather sandals, a tight little shirt, and a pair of talking eyes flickering make people feel distressed. I bid 10 million on behalf of the village of Kumogakure, the land of thunder, hoping to meet the master who made these shoes. Cunning, so cunning, this Kumogakure village woman actually played this hand. 10 million is a gift, anyone can take it out. Not to mention 10 million, even 100 million is not a problem. But now that this woman is in the lead, they will have to take the lead when they come out to bid. Fighting back and forth is not worth it. There's no guarantee that the master who made these shoes will see you. If you see it, it's alright, but it's not completely useless if you don't see it. 10 million is not a drop in the bucket for a country. But the problem is that buying a pair of broken leather shoes with a drop of a cent would be too much of a disadvantage. Even if the pair of broken shoes is a little bit magical, he can't change the original system of broken shoes. Bang bang bang, 3 hammers fell, and no one continued to increase the price of the broken leather shoes belonged to the Kumogakure village. Mitarashi Anko, who was sitting in the back, pulled Hinata angrily. See, this brat can't move his legs when he sees a beautiful woman. The hammer fell like a snail before, but now the hammer falls like a bouncy ball. I see. He must be trying to date people after the auction. You have to be careful, Hinata. Sister Anko, I'm sure my brother won't. Even if he's dating someone, he must have something to do. Selling high, you trust him so much. Mitarashi Anko was almost out of breath. Unmoved, Hinata quietly looked at the front desk. Liamong has already pulled out the second item. Compared with the first piece of bullshit, the second piece is obviously much more normal. Yuhi and blue are disgusting, and 2 glass bottles, 1 Yuhi and 1 blue, are illuminated with a spotlight, which is quite a golden color. What are those 2 bottles? The good friends whispered, and the familiar friends probed and whispered. The smiling Liuman invited the big cow up, and Senju Tsunade's strong debut hit the crowd like a thunderbolt. Did she make these 2 bottles of medicine? Thinking of Senju Tsunade's name in the entire ninja world, everyone's eyes were hot and their emotions were surging. The legendary Fat Sheep said, these 2 bottles of reagents are the products made by a little bastard. Although until now, I have not figured out the exact synthesis. But I can vouch from my reputation that their efficacy is definitely worth having. Quote. The beautiful big eyes glanced around. Senju Tsunade raised the Yuhi bottle to the palm of his hand. Norden's expert potion has the miraculous effect of restoring vitality. Any unnatural loss of vitality can be replenished through this potion. There is no toxic side effect at all. Repeated use has no resistance, no cooldown required. Quote. Rumbling thunder slammed into the forehead in succession, except for the famous name of the country of fire, who had known earlier. All the others stood up. Master Tsunade, please forgive my rudeness. Does this medicine really have the effect you said? Are you doubting me? His head tightened and he glared at him. Seeing Senjutsunade's anger, the Omegakure village ninja who asked the question not only was not afraid, but his eyes widened wildly. Gotta buy it at all costs. You go back to the village immediately and report the matter to the leader yourself. Listen to me, even if you die, you have to die for me. Yes. Bowing and leading the order to dodge out, the Omegakure ninja raised his head again after giving the order. Introducing the shocking Yuhi bottle, Senju Tsunade held the blue bottle in his hand again. Lorian's expert potion. Unlike the previous introduction, this potion restores chakra. It also has no poisonous effect and can be used repeatedly. Does not generate resistance and requires no cooldown. What? Although Norden's expert potion was already in front, Rolian's expert potion still shocked countless people. There is no need to say anything else. The appearance of these two bottles of medicine today is destined to change history. Before that, only Zheng Shuiwen could replenish vitality. However, neither the effect nor the side effects can be compared with those on stage, and they are not even worthy of being mentioned together. Zheng Shui pill, as the name suggests, increases the blood volume of the human body. However, Zheng Shui pills have side effects. Also, the side effects are very strong. The effect is completely achieved at the expense of overdrawing the vitality of the human body. But even so, it is still hard to find a pill in the ninja world, and it has become a life-saving medicine that everyone respects. Today, the myth of the blood-enhancing pill has finally been broken, and Norden's expert medicine has taken its place since then. In the same way, when Lorian's expert medicine appeared, he also stepped on the Bingliang pill under his feet. The emergence of these two bottles of medicine has made history. Jiraiya is fading, Homura Mitokado is fooling, and Kaharu Udatane is simply an old cucumber. At this time, I was thinking with my feet, and I knew that these two bottles of medicine must have something to do with Tsunade. If they could bring Tsunade back as Hokage before, wouldn't this medicine be theirs now? One stumble becomes eternal hatred. This is truly one stumble into eternal hatred. I regret it later, and the bowels of regret are all green. Wrong. Tsunade said just now that this medicine was made by a little bastard. Then, this medicine is not made by her. If not, who would she be, and who would be called a little bastard? A few figures flashed in their heads, and suddenly three disgusting people, like falling into a cesspool, looked at the backstage in unison. Brother Liamong, you are awesome. She shyly clasped her arms and leaned her little head against her shoulders. Yuhi became Little Apple's little secretary full of admiration. The arrogant gang leader is very stinky, and can be recognized by the woman he likes, and there is nothing more refreshing than this. Mitarashi Anko gave him a savage look from the side. You're going to be shy. What happened to that woman in Kumogakure village? Ah, that what? 7 and 4, the cloud is still working hard. Brothers and sisters, persistence is victory. Text chapter 92 _ the auction of the war of the enemies. To explain is to cover up. To cover up is to tell a story. The shimmers that come and go. The little secretary Hinata laughed softly, the eyes of Mitarashi Anko spitting fire. The front stand, Senju Tsunade, who had introduced the two potions, became a light bulb. Countless people were looking at her, their burning eyes as if they were about to set the air on fire. Lord Tsunade, what is the price of these two potions, and whether the formula is for sale? One sentence has drawn contempt from countless people. How could such a miraculous potion sell the formula? It doesn't matter if you are stupid, and don't lower everyone's IQ. Maimu smiled and shook the two glass bottles in her hand. Senju Tsunade answered the question unexpectedly, I can sell the prescription. What? Did we hear it wrong? One eye stared at too big, the human head was crowded into a dog's head, and the boiling crowd couldn't believe their ears. What the woman on the stage said just now, this legendary fat sheep, the holy hand of the medical world, the most powerful woman in the ninja world, actually said that she wanted to sell the formula of these two medicines. Is this because we are too outdated, or is the world changing too fast for such absurd things to happen? Who would sell the chicken that laid the golden egg? Senju Tsunade, who was smiling and squinting on the stage, the excited crowd couldn't help themselves. Master Tsunade, are you really willing to sell these two medicinal formulas? Sell? Why don't you sell it? Yuhi and Blue played with two reagents, and the legendary fat sheep turned into a big bad wolf. Sell is for sale, but let's talk about it before. You can't make it after you take it back. Can't blame me, because I only know the formula for this thing and can't be synthesized. Even if I have seen it dozens of times with my own eyes, there is still no progress. Why? How could this happen? The unbelievable words entered his mind, and the ninjas from the hidden villages and the dignitaries of the various vassal states couldn't believe it. If there is a formula, the medicine will not come out. You go to the grave and burn newspapers to fool ghosts. If even you can't match it, who else can match this medicine? Senju Tsunade is in the ninja world, and anyone who is not an idiot knows her name. Her surname, her record, everything about her are legends. Even among ordinary people, it also enjoys the title of the legendary fat sheep. Among these many titles, her most admirable is undoubtedly the medical ninjutsu, enjoying the peak honor of medical master, and the entire ninja world is unparalleled. But now, this medical holy hand actually claims that she also has medicines that she can't match. How can this be convincing? Looking at the suspicious eyes of the crowd below the stage, Senju Tsunade smiled in addition to a wry smile. Before seeing Liamong, this stinky boy, she never thought that she would be stumped by the medicine one day. Mushrooms with honey, cheese with coarse garlic, are such common things, but with confusing reagents, is there any reason for this world? Every time she failed the experiment, she wanted to rush to Liamong, the stinky boy, grab the collar and raised it to ask, how did this medicine come out? Needless to say, these people don't believe it, even she herself doesn't believe it. But now everyone has stopped paying attention to these, and even they have stopped paying attention to the 2 bottles of potions that made them crazy. What they're focusing on now is the person who made these 2 potions, the little bastard in Senju Tsunade's mouth. Since adding a small print, the age must not be too high. As Senju Tsunade, she will never cheat in this regard, and she does not need to sacrifice her own reputation to benefit others. So that this little bastard is worth scrutinizing. How old is he or she? According to Senju Tsunade's age, it should be no more than 30 years old. A super yakushi under 30 years old, a medical expert who can make history. This crazy possibility directly caused the venue to fall into a frenzy. After just a few minutes, the leaders of the 5 hidden villages in the 5 major countries all summoned their most trusted and competent subordinates, and issued various orders in the most unquestionable tone. Before the auction of the 2 potions started, the storm around them had already begun. You can imagine how many people will follow Tsunade when she leaves Konoha behind. Okay, the next 2 bottles of reagents will be auctioned at a reserve price of 500,000 yuan, and each bid shall not be less than 100,000 taels. 1 million. Senjutsunade's voice fell, and Jiraiya's shy voice rang out. His bid shocked and stunned countless people. No one expected that he would actually make a bid. When the lecherous immortal shouted these words, it was like slapping himself in public, and also brought the relationship between Tsunade and Konoha to the forefront. Jiraiya would never make such a decision unless it was a last resort. But he knew that there was no point in hiding it at this time. By the time Tsunade leaves Konoha again, the things they had hidden before will be proved invisibly. The turmoil caused by the super scourge of Liamong during Chunan's exam has become the laughingstock of the entire ninja world. Don't look at the 4 shadows hanging on the Konoha Hokage rock. But the insiders are fully aware that the first 3 have been delisted. The first Hokage Senju Hashirama left the forehead, announced that the Senju family and Konoha had completely cut off relations, and publicly abolished the Hokage position of the 3-generation-old man. This is simply a big joke. Thinking about it over and over again, Jiraiya, who knew that the paper couldn't contain the fire, simply took advantage of it. Although it may be possible to take out this potion in the hands of the daimyo later, the lecherous immortal does not want to do so. To do so would be to bow to the daimyo, and Konoha can't stand any turmoil right now. As the controller of Konoha, he would never allow the daimyo to stretch his hand too far, which would be disastrous for the village. Jiraiya called out for the price, shocking countless people. But someone immediately responded. 2 million. The woman who directly doubled the price without adding 100,000 to the base price smiled and nodded. Seeing the person who made the offer, the other forces who originally wanted to speak shut up. The woman who asked for the price was not someone else, but the Kumogakure ninja who had bought the big-toed leather shoes with 10 million. Kumogakure village, the country of thunder, and Konoha, the country of fire, can be traced back even before the establishment of the ninja world. In World War I, World War II, and World War III, the two villages were mortal enemies. The only possible celebration of understanding was also ruined by the positive changes at the Golden Horn, Silver Corner. In these 3 wars that have affected the entire continent, the hatred forged between the two villages is as terrifying as the sea. Even after the end of the Third World War, when the two villages signed a peace agreement, the ninjas of Kumogakure village also took the opportunity to kidnap Hinata. After being defeated and killed, he saw Konoha's idea of not wanting to continue fighting and took a bite. In the end, Hyuga Hazashi died for Hyuga Hiyashi, and even the body was pulled back by Kumogakure. With such a past, whoever dares to intervene now is tantamount to meddling in the battle between the two villages. 3 million, little girl, you really want to fight with me? Pressing her hands and looking back, Jiraiya narrowed her eyes fiercely. The secretary of the 4th generation of Reikage in Kumogakure village chuckled and covered Yuhi's lips. Since Lord Hokage calls me a small word, why bother with a little girl with me? Lord Tsunade is the same as you, Sanin, you can ask her for a date when you come back. Bottle, 4 million on behalf of our Kumogakure village. Quote. Beating people only slaps the face, scolding people only exposes shortcomings. Mabuyi's words slammed into Jiraiya's heart. 5 million. The lecherous immortal clapped her hands angrily. 6 million. Mabuyi looked at his fingertips unmoved. 7 million. Jiraiya's voice froze again. 8 million. With her pretty eyes raised, Mabuyi looked back without fear. 9 million. Jiraiya's murderous aura collapsed, and Yuhi's eyes were like a ghost. 10 million. He stretched out his hand and stroked the hair that was drawn in front of his eyes and brought it to his ear. Mabuyi, the secretary of the 4th generation of Reikage, had a sullen look. Lord Jiraiya, why do you have to fight with a little girl like me because of your seniority? Ruthless. It's only 2 bottles of medicine. You can't get it from anywhere, so you want to snatch it from us. Kumogakure Konoha is fighting for life and death, and everyone watching is watching the show. This is not to say that they are not interested in medicine, but that they do not want to mix it up casually. At this time, asking for a price is equivalent to participating in a battle. It is not a matter of fear of 2 parties, but a question of whether it is worth it or not. For the sake of 2 bottles of potions that I don't know if I can get my hands on them in the end, is it not a brain dead to offend the 2 big hidden villages? Might as well wait for them to decide the winner and loser. At that time, the nature will be different. No matter how overbearing the 2 hidden villages are, they will not be overbearing enough to allow others to compete fairly. So everyone is waiting for Konoha and Kumogakure to decide the winner. Fortunately, the wait did not take long. When the price reached 35 million, the secretary of the 4th generation Reikage in Kumogakure village couldn't stand it. No way, Mabuyi is on an ambassadorial mission after all. Even if a lot of money can be mobilized because of identity issues, it is no match for the 5 generations of Hokage who have the decision-making power of one village in local operations. In the face of Jiraiya, who is determined to fight to the end, failure is inevitable. Of course, failure is failure, and Mabuyi will definitely not admit defeat. Forget it, it's just 2 bottles of potions. Our Kumogakure village is not very rare. Just take pity on the old man and give it to you. Coldly at Kiba, sharp-mouthed little girl, Jiraiya snorted coldly. There is no doubt that this time the confrontation between the two hidden villages ended with the final victory of Konoha's. But Konoha's victory doesn't mean the auction of the two potions is over. On the contrary, I am afraid the real auction has just begun. 7 and 5, there are still 2 chapters. Brothers, hold a cup of coffee in the cloud. Text chapter 93 _ the shock of the finale item is broken through the cavity. 36 million, 5 generations of Hokage, don't mind the old man's intervention. Haha, what is the name of the land of wind? If you want to play, Konoha will naturally be willing to accompany you. 40 million, let's round up the whole number. Interesting Academy is the first release. The successive bidding calls were passed into the background, and the gangster almost had no fun. Gaga. Money, money, my money. Someone has bid again. Who is that guy who is skinny like a monkey? Mitarashi Anko grabbed him back immediately. Be quiet, that old man is the name of the land of wind, didn't you hear it just now? Damning, the daimyo wears that bird's virtue. He stuck his head out and looked at it carefully, listening to Chian's gleam in his ears and found that it was really like that. The old guy who called out the price was wearing the same clothes as the big name of the country of fire. He also had a fan on his head, 2 sacks on his body, and a rag bag on his back. It's not much different from that guy with cabbage in his hand, a pot lid on his head, and a sack covered in sacks. Let's not mention the 2 big names in the gangster's head, who have not yet officially succeeded to the throne, but have actually begun to exercise the power of Hokage. The lecherous immortals laughed and laughed, secretly crying bitterly. After Chunan's exam, Konoha suffered a heavy loss. He took out 40 million yuan all at once. The only hope now is that the name of the Kingdom of Wind will not continue. But 45 million, I don't have the courage of the 5 generations of Hokage, I'm better than you. Shaking the fan lightly, he said no, but in fact, the famous name of the Kingdom of Wind, which exceeded 1 million, was full of sneers. He is different from the idiots of other major countries, and he is willing to argue with Yinkyun. In the land of winds, Sunagakure village has been suppressed by him. Today's new generation has only 3 fingers, Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari. These 3 elites who are fully supported by Sunagakure village, the name of the Kingdom of Wind is proud. A dangerous profession like ninja can't let them look up. Those idiots in other countries not only do not suppress, but some even support them. Without the influence of Hidden Village, the famous name of the Kingdom of Wind, who changed the method every year to reduce funds, was naturally not bad. Chakra recovery medicine was not needed, and his eyes were all fixed on the bottle of vitality recovery. Although Tsunade had just made it clear that this bottle of medicine could only restore his unnaturally lost vitality, he had never suffered any injuries in his life. It is more convenient to read m.heihei168.com on the mobile phone, but it is also good to drink it and try it, maybe you can replenish it for 2 years. Thinking of this, the heart of the Kingdom of Wind became more and more determined. I must get him. Jiraiya watched from the side, exchanged glances with the 2 consultants, hesitated, and raised the price again. 50 million. Since the Kingdom of Wind is so happy, we Konoha can't be left behind, right? Okay. I haven't encountered such an interesting thing for a long time. The fan in his hand patted his palm, and the name of the Kingdom of Wind gave a number that shocked everyone. 80 million, I will give 80 million. 5 generations of Hokage, if you can get a silver or 2 more, this game is considered a win for you. Quote. Without caring about his sleeves, the famous name of the Kingdom of Wind, who was taking care of his clothes, raised his head as if nothing was wrong, as if he was not the one who just shouted out 80 million. Gaara Temari Kankuro stared at him with anger in his eyes, and this offer even exceeded the annual funding that the Land of Winds gave to Sunagakure village. Yes, I am afraid no one can imagine that Sunagakure village can survive now, relying not on the daimyo but on himself. The 30 million yuan per year is not enough to send beggars. Compared with the other 4 major countries, the expenditure is 1 billion, billions, or even tens of billions. Seeing this bastard spend 80 million to buy medicine without blinking, the three Gaara siblings had the urge to kill him on the spot. Where did he get so much money? Glancing at the indifferent appearance of the name of the country of wind, Jiraiya swallowed 2 mouthfuls and was speechless. The alliance of Konoha Sunagakure is true, but this does not mean that Konoha has formed an alliance with the name of Hefeng. Although in name, Hefeng, the country of fire, is still an ally, but in fact it is completely different. Complex relationships, fierce competition. In the face of a big name in a country, no matter how hard it is to claim it is in vain. Looking at the 2 advisors sitting next to him, Kaharu Udatane shook his head slowly but firmly. This old woman doesn't care about eating people's food and not doing shit, talking about people without doing anything. But people's heads are really easy to use. When she was young, both Madara and the first generation praised her more than once. If it weren't for the fact that the strength could not convince the public, I am afraid that the 3 generations of Hokage would be changed to do it. Even so, she became a consultant in her later career, and became the connection between the Fire Nation and Konoha, and she did not fall after several storms. Even if he was severely harmed by Liamong, he still came back like a dog with the support of his name. The position of advisor is as stable as Mount High. Seeing such an old woman shaking her head firmly, Jiraiya knew it was over. However, the loser does not lose the battle, and the lecherous immortal does not forget to add fire when he comes. Since the name of the country of wind is so proud, I will not fight with you. It's because Sunagakure village lacks support recently, you are so rich, want to come nor will it stand idly by. Quote. Ha ha ha, we don't have to worry about the 5 generations of Hokage about the country of the wind. As for the expenses, I will increase it appropriately. Dandan raised his fan face to cover his mouth with his fingers, and the daimyo of the Kingdom of Wind, who did not smile, said secretly. Add funds to Sunagakure village, please. Don't say I don't give them a bonus, adding 1 or 2 is also a bonus, and I'll give them 1 or 2 when I go back. 30 million and 1 taels a year, that's a lot. Yinshao completed the potion auction, and the desperate daimyo of the Kingdom of Wind didn't even wait for the auction to end, and ordered his servants to pay for the goods. The old man was very smart, and if he drank the medicine on the spot, Senju Tsunade would save him even if there was a problem. Going back and drinking is different. If you don't use the world's #1 medical ninja for free, isn't the money wasted? Being able to spend money and daring to spend money will also save money. After taking a bottle of Norden's expert medicine, perhaps because of his age, the effect was miraculously good, and the wrinkles on his face faded a lot in an instant. Seeing the appearance of the daimyo of the Kingdom of Wind, the always cautious daimyo of the Kingdom of Fire couldn't help but regret it. After he got the medicine, he was afraid of life-threatening side effects, so he gave it to the attendant first, and planned to wait for 1.5 years to confirm that it was really fine before drinking it. Now that I have seen it, I have the urge to go back and get medicine. Okay, this medicine is good, this medicine is very good. Princess Tsunade, I don't know if you still have it. 40 million, how much I want. I grinned and narrowed my eyes, and the legendary fat sheep smiled happily, but did not agree immediately. After an ambiguous refusal, he gave up the place to Liamong. From the portable space, he took out the ornately decorated sword and played. For this sword, the gangster took a lot of time. Not that the enchanting is troublesome, but the appearance is troublesome. As the saying goes, 1/3 looks good and 7 points dress up. For this finale sword to be dazzling, Liuman really wanted to kill a lot of brain cells. Later, after thinking about it, I thought of a divine sword. This is a 2-handed sword, a western demon skull, 2 antelope horns stuck to the gauntlet, a half-moon-shaped double-layered sword crocodile, incomprehensible strange characters, coupled with a blue sword body with hidden flashes of fluorescent light, it debuted. Which attracted a lot of attention. This sword, Frostmourne, the sharp blade in front of the chest held both hands and raised it over the top. A sudden flash of light slammed it into the ground, and the blade full of energy was like a tofu plate that was cut into half by a knife. The entire hall instantly blew a storm belonging to ice and snow. The cold air rushed towards his face, and the ninja dignitaries who raised their sleeves to cover them narrowed their eyes, watching through the wind and snow. A divine sword mist Shuang was stuck on the ground. The last item in this auction, the divine sword Frostmourne from a distant world, an epic weapon that is said to be able to slay and seal souls. The auction with no reserve price and zero specification begins. After shouting Dong Zhang Shi Ji Yu, the confident Lu Meng was very surprised. Why did these melon children not bid again? A stinky boy knows how to lie. His cheeks puffed up like a gas bag, and he looked at Mitarashi Anko's indignant appearance, and the little secretary Hinata, who also knew the truth, pursed his lips and snickered. What kind of magic sword from a distant alien plane? That sword is an ordinary item found in the Orochimaru arsenal, with an ice attribute attack attached. As for beheading and sealing the soul, it is even more nonsense. Except for the reason of enchantment, that sword is more beautiful and more gorgeous, but it is still an ordinary sword in essence. The reason why it can achieve the effect just now lies not in the sword at all, but in people. The shrapnel that smashed the golden steel into the ground through the hilt of the sword has already broken dozens of pieces in the test. Don't look at the sword as not broken today, how long it can support is really a question. However, those who were shocked by this matter would not know. No, there are 205 bids. I give 10 million. You are too embarrassed to say 10 million. Wait, let me see which village you are from. The representative of Iwagakure village, who couldn't find the person who spoke, opened his mouth and doubled the price. 50 million, we Iwagakure give 50 million. Quote. 100 million in Kurigakure. The two small eyes fixed on the half of the sword on the stage, which was exposed on the ground, and the ninja in Kurigakure village ruthless. Whoever dares to rob me will kill him. 7 and 6, there is still one chapter, and the cloud is almost tired and vomiting blood. Text chapter 94 _ the sadness of the times, the fishy wind in the blood fog. The ruthless people who survived the blood fog era, even ordinary Jonin, are not comparable to other ninjas of the same level in the hidden village. Interesting Academy's first launch is really fun, and the best result is just to die together. This is not to say that the ninjas in the blood fog era were so powerful and beneficial, but that there was a madman in Kurigakure of that era who was a lunatic among all lunatics. What can be produced by beheading teammates to upgrade when they graduate, except for a group of psychopaths? The reason why Teoti Zaibuji is called a Kurigakure ghost is because during the graduation ceremony, the old boy brazenly slaughtered all the students of the same period. Kurigakure ninjas who are now calling out 100 million to bid are the survivors of that era. Any old ninja can recognize these guys. Because they all lack a sense of humanity, they can smell the cold and dead aura from hundreds of miles away, and the place where they appear means death. Isn't it life-threatening to bid with such a lunatic? If you lose, it's okay to say, maybe people are in a good mood and don't care about you as much. If you win, it will be bad luck. Why is the ninja in the blood fog so jealous of the ninja world? In addition to being ruthless, it is the character of endless death. To be chased and killed by them as a target, don't think about it for a lifetime. As long as the blood in the blood vessels is still flowing, these lunatics will not give up the goal of chasing and killing, and will continue to do everything to achieve their goals. Smelling the bloody murderous aura unscrupulously exuding from his nostrils, the knowledgeable ninjas all shut up, and those who were not knowledgeable were also frightened. 100 million, is there any higher? 100 million, the first time. The banging auction hammer slammed into the table. Liamong looked back and forth, but no one spoke. Isn't he a ninja from the village of Kurigakure? What are you afraid of? Rely on. There are 5 hidden villages, each small country, one counts as one, and no one asks for the price. Jiraiya knew about Konoha's situation and didn't need it at all. Gaara really wanted it, but unfortunately there was no money in the village. Except for the 2 courageous and powerful guys, none of the others were willing to get involved in the blood fog. They are not afraid of making bad relations with Kurigakure village, but they also do not want to provoke the madmen of Kurigakure village. These obviously mentally problematic things will not care about the overall situation if they are provoked, and they will be killed first. Assassination of the daimyo, the conspiracy is changing, the attack on Mizukage, almost all the ninjas in the village of Kurigakure have done everything that can be imagined. With such a glorious past, no one would be willing to take the life of a swordsman. In the end, if you have your life to buy it, you will lose your life, and you will give your life away without saying anything, and you will be cheap for others. So, whoever likes to buy it. As soon as I closed my eyes, the day passed. The hammer held high slammed again, and the gangster wanted to eat his life. Frostmourne is 100 million for the second time, 800 million for the second time, is there anything higher, if not? Secretly uttered a foul language to complete the deal with the Kurigakure ninja, and Lu Meng looked at the old boy to death on the left, and looked at the old boy on the right. Morning Gate Star, if you can survive today, I will share your surname. If others don't kill you, I have to find a chance to kill you. Cutting off people's fortunes is like killing one's parents. It took a month to prepare the divine sword before selling 100 million taels. Although Liamong didn't think about this number before, but with the potion of 80 million, the sword must be cheap. And it's not a star and a half cheap. The anticlimactic auction was over, and before the gangster returned to his residence, there was a knock on the door outside the courtyard. Who are you looking for? The fat, pig-like horned melon face shoved in front of him, and the Liamong face that was almost kicked out twitched wildly. The big fat man standing outside the door took out an IOU from Kabuto's shirt. Well, is Tsunade-sama here? I have some debts that I want to settle with her. Why, she owes you money. Lu Meng was very upset, and a fart made two noises. You're so right, she owes me 3 years and hasn't paid it back. Snot and tears stood outside the door. The big fat man wiped his face as if he had found an organization. That was the first time in 2 years. Snow, a bit later than 3 years. Shut up, you directly say how much money she owes you. Gaba Gaba punched twice, forcibly holding down the impulsive Liamong and biting Kiba. The big fat man, who found that the atmosphere was not right, didn't dare to talk nonsense. 5 million taels, I don't want any interest, please let her pay me back the money, I have 80 who raised me with hard work. Mother, there is a half-year-old baby who is not yet full moon waiting to be fed. Brother, when I beg you, please help me, I will kowtow to you. As soon as he said kneeling, his knees softened. Looking at the guy in front of him who threw himself down on his knees and bowed his head, Lu Meng's heart was not to mention how tired and crooked. You get up first, we can discuss it with good words. Little brother, I can't afford it. If I don't get the money back, my family won't be able to open the pot. I beg you, I beg you. Boom. It was another one of Liamong, who slammed his head under his feet, smacking his mouth, and didn't know which tendon was wrong, and as soon as his heart softened, he agreed to pay back the money. You get up first, 5 million taels, right? Do you have any IOUs? I'll see, if it's true, I'll help her pay it back. Really, little brother, you didn't lie to me. He raised his head in astonishment, and the fat man with a broken forehead quickly handed the IOU to him. Impressively wrote 5 million IOUs in his hands, and looked at Liamong over and over again, but helplessly took out his pockets. 5 million for a piece of waste paper, that's what he's aiming for. Chong Chong let out a sullen breath and shook his head and went back to the house. He stopped at Lu Meng's feet, who was about to walk to the door. The door rang again, and it seemed that there was more than one person. Little brother, is Tsunade-sama there? Little brother, please do well. Little brother, my dad died yesterday. Little brother, you are all my brothers, I rely on your sister, me. Crows clucked in groups of crows flew over their heads, and Liamong, who was finally reminiscing about it, quickly packed up and ran away. The reconnaissance that sneaked back at night, it was dark outside and blocked countless crowds, standing, sitting, lying down, whatever. Looking at these strange-looking people, with lumps of cabbage in their hands, calcium deficiency on the top of their foreheads, but also the life-threatening ghosts who had to write love with their left hand. The gangster really wanted to smash them all with an axe. How much money does Senju Tsunade owe others? Why did so many people come to collect debts as soon as I heard that she was making money? No, this day will not pass. He didn't hold on for a day, picked up the pale-faced little secretary and ran in the dark, and Mitarashi Enko behind him was also very embarrassed. Stinky boy, how long are we going to run? I don't know, they can run as far as they can, and tell them to go as far as they think. The greatest tragedy in life is to turn someone else's debt into one's own. You should tell that woman Tsunade, I used to admire her. Now, thinking about those guys who blocked doors and windows, wishing they could even block mouse holes, Enko who couldn't help but quivered no more. The former admiration. All night under the stars and the moon, the experienced Senju Tsunade slipped out early while Liamong and his group were evading the pursuit. And after calculating the right direction, I waited with Shizune halfway, and my life was very moist. Drinking small wine during the day, consuming miso at night, and washing rags in pots and pans. Come on, let's take a gamble and see when they come. Adult me. Why are you so inked? I blocked it at noon for 3 days. It's your turn. I held the dolphin in my arms and lowered my head. Shizune was completely defeated by the princess. Senju Tsunade, who couldn't find anyone to gamble, glanced at the moonlight angrily. There were a few dark clouds in the sky, and the sky suddenly darkened. There was a sound of water, and the stream of light that stopped in an instant stopped Enko who was following behind, and the slab stretched out horizontally to hold the ball softly. Suddenly attacked in the chest, Mitarashi Enko threw his hand and was a slap in the face. Stinky boy, you are taking advantage of me again. Shish, there's someone nearby. He hissed and rubbed his aching head. The gangster who put Hinata down was about to make a sneak attack when a black shadow first appeared in the river not far ahead. Under the gloomy moonlight, a dazzling blade glowed brightly. Hand over all the money you got from the auction, and I promise to keep your whole body. Brother, that is your sword. It's mine now. He glanced sharply at the little secretary who hid behind Liamong. The ninja from Kurigakure village squinted his eyes like a blind mouse, his eyes not even the size of a mung bean. It's not a good thing to look at. Hinata, be careful, Miss Enko, let's go. The sharp blade that could have sold at a high price was just half-hearted. If you say you cut it, just cut it. If the young master doesn't bother you, you should burn high incense. He aimed at you well. I didn't look for you, you came looking for me. Is this bullying the young master? Don't you urinate because of your old age? Yin child, future child yin. Shadow snake hand. Mitarashi Enko, who jumped high with his left arm and reached forward, shrank his pupils. Be careful, that guy is a water body. The shattered avatar fell to the ground, and a dozen black shadows stood up one after another in the bubbling bubbles scattered on the river surface. Since you want to experience the horror of death, then you can enjoy the fishy wind in the blood mist. The 7th chapter of the 7th shift, finally finished vomiting blood. It's not easy. In 2 days, Union realized a truth. It's really difficult to write a book. Text chapter 95_brother, put down that watermelon knife in your hand. Che, what a big talker. It's easier to read on a mobile phone. m.heihei168.com. You thought you were hiding in the water like a turtle, so the young master wouldn't be able to find you. Sister Enko, it's all fake outside. Hinata looks at the bottom of the river. By Akugan. Blue veins floated on both sides of the milky white pupil, and the little secretary stared at the river and struck a few shuriken. Kurigakure ninja, who was pretending to be a bastard, jumped up like a toad, with a pair of small eyes curling up. Hyuga, s. Good insight. You can die. Raised his right hand, he threw out the net, and the livid attack was completely beyond the expectations of the Kurigakure ninja. However, since this guy dared to kill people, and he was able to beat the crowd at auctions, he naturally had 2 brushes. Water stand in. The body that jumped in midair was blasted into foam, and the Kurigakure ninja handprints flew back into the river. He's faster. Enko is faster than him. Siwei Shenhai Wu Yin. Kaden, fire style, great fireball jutsu. In almost a second, the orange-yellow that was spit out in the early days was turned into golden white by the magical blessing of the flames, and the scorched earth was sprayed all the way to the river. Seeing this incomparably pervert thing, the Kurigakure ninja immediately stopped the handprint, and a cat head pretended to be a bastard again. As high as 0 degrees Celsius slammed to the bottom of the river, and the rising water vapor was fascinated on the spot. Hinata, who was watching from behind, suddenly reminded in a hurry, brother and sister, be careful, he's using ninjutsu. Head like a nest was scorched like a dog's gnawing. The Kurigakure ninja, who almost died, pointed his finger at the sky and the other hand in front of him. The vapor that had been evaporated by the flames was so thick and invisible that no one could be seen for half a meter. Stinky girls, dead boy, and the little girl of the Hyuga family over there, I will definitely not let you die happily, I want to dismember you little by little. Yo drink, Hinata's sister Enko, did you hear that? These days, there is no shortage of everything, even the yawning toad, and he is not afraid of bragging about it. Kurigakure in front of the Hyuga clan, is it better to say that this guy is awesome, or that he is stupid, not to mention. Dance of Lightning. Enough time is wasted dealing with a scrap that you don't even know the name of. The figure that disappeared suddenly appeared behind the hidden Kurigakure ninja, and the guy with the wind behind his head shrank his pupils at that time. How could this dead boy find out about himself? How could he be so fast? Baidu Interesting Academy. Fist and foot collide, elbow and palm hit each other, and the Kurigakure ninja's performance at a dangerous moment is extremely fierce. Obviously there is a chance to solve it. This guy just used life-threatening means to force Liamong to commit. After several battles, there was no result, and there was another person in front of the desperate road that had not yet landed. Hinata's little secretary with blue veins in his eyes suddenly stood still like catkins. Gentle fist 8 trigrams 64 palms. I won't stand behind my brother forever. I need to be strong too. This is 8 trigrams 2 palms. The storm-like sword fingers broke through the fog and pointed towards Yintang, and the small eyes of the Kurigakure ninja who won the grand prize shrank. Hyuga is famous in the ninja world, and it would be bad to be branded. Frostmourne, the fake Frostmourne, was turned into a shield. This is also due to the large difference in level between the two. Even with the blessing of boxing, the little secretary didn't hit much. The sharp sword fingers slammed out, and the Kurigakure ninja couldn't wait to be happy, and there was a loud shout from above his head. You idiot of broken gold and steel, leave it here for me. That was once mistaken for chakra-enhanced strength. The head fell straight down like a shooting star, and Kurigakure, who almost cried, hydrated again in a hurry, and the rumbling sound was scattered, and the cracked ground revealed a pit of the boss. Lu Mang, who got up, became impatient. I said, how long will you be hiding? Hee, little baby, you really have a lot of interests. However, the consequences of angering me are not what you can afford. Chest was on fire and his hair was dry and yellow, and Kurigakure, whose boss was suffocating, finally made a killing move. Hearing the rumbling sound in his ears, Liamong felt the urge to curse his mother. Great Falls, when did advanced ninjutsu become so worthless? Hand seals standing on the waves, Kurigakure, who almost summoned the entire river surface, grinned and pulled out his sharp blade. Boy, try my new trick, thanks to your sword. Big diffuse improvement technique Ice Age. The whole body chakra poured into the body of the sword, and the Frostmourne radiance of the horned skull suddenly appeared. Kurigakure, who was holding the sword, laughed, hysterically, and laughing wildly. Kurigakure ninja couldn't help but get excited when he thought back to the experiment he had done before here. What water without moon, what keke genkai. With this sword, even without those, he can still become a peerless powerhouse. Hyoten ice style in front of this divine sword, sweetened water style is equivalent to Hyoten ice style. Pay for your ignorance and I will punish you. The sharp blade raised high suddenly plunged into the waves, and the violent ice seemed to freeze everything. Brother. Stinky boy. How could it be? How so? Blade remained in his hand, and Kurigakure, whose eyes were torn apart, was dumbfounded. My divine sword, my Hyoten ice style, you must be you. Right, you did something on the sword. Full of resentment, the Kurigakure ninja had his heart eaten raw. 100 million taels, that's 100 million taels. After spending 100 million taels, all his life savings will be gone. Even so, he had to use the money used to order the ninja tools this time, otherwise he wouldn't come out to ambush. Originally, the Kurigakure ninja planned to take a picture of the sword first, then turn around and snatch the money away. The sword and money don't have to be paid for anything. With this divine sword, his status in the village will inevitably be improved, and he may even enter the Senate. But now, everything is ruined, everything is ruined. Up the hilt with only a small half left, looking at this sharp blade that holds all hope, the Kurigakure ninja went crazy. It's all you who ruined my sword. Damn boy, you die for me. Sideways dodging the hilt of the sword, facing Kurigakure who turned on mad dog mode, Liamong cried out innocence in his heart. Can you blame me for a broken sword? Did the young man force you to buy it? Did I put a knife on your neck, or did I secretly kidnap your mother? Who do you blame for his willingness to buy? Oh, now you bought it and tossed it, and turned around and blamed the poor quality. When selling swords, did the young master issue an invoice to you and give you 3 guarantees? There are no invoices and 3 guarantees. Who do you blame for Janj? He knows how hard it is to live these days. On the mad dog mode to perform the miracle of life, the mad Kurigakure ninja completely disregarded his own safety and was determined to kill Liamong. Kid, die for me. The watermelon knife held high above the top, the flaming head in the eyes, Hinata on the left, Enko darts on the right, and the Kurigakure ninja all pretended not to see, and cut off Kabuto's head when he aimed at the Liamong head. Wow, what about you? The light of the knife fell close to the clothes, causing tons of damage to the Kurigakure ninja. The left one is kunai, the right one is stabbed, and there are several shuriken inserted in the back, but this guy seems to be nothing, and continues to slash and slash. The head of the gangster is Sparta immediately. Whether I will kill your wife or dig up your ancestral grave, how much hatred it takes to produce such a great hatred. Brother, I'm wrong, can't I be wrong? Let's talk and discuss, let's put down the watermelon knife in your hand first. We are literate people don't fight literate people. Resentment, and Kurigakure, who was intent on killing the slender man, would never stop. Not only did he not stop, but he made a violent 3-pointer. Damn boy, it's too late to ask for mercy now. Shira slashed across the face door again, and the gangster whose strands of hair fell down became angry. The head can be broken, the hairstyle can't be messed up, the blood can flow, and the leather shoes can't be rubbed with oil. Dare to destroy the young master's hairstyle, he will make you crooked. Think having a watermelon knife is great? I'll show you what this is. Boy, light up your weapons. A large watermelon has 2 petals in the middle, one on the left and one on the right. Seeing the weapon Liamong took out, the Kurigakure ninja, who had been crazy before, didn't dare to get mad. He lowered his head and looked at the small knife in his hand, and then looked up at the machete in his hand, the one who is careful with his liver. Wow cool. You a rascal. I'm relying on your sister, the gangster who was almost chased into a dead dog with a 82-pound Qinglong Yanyu machete raised high above the top. Who cares whether he is a scumbag or not? Come on, brother, this instead, you ran away. Wait, I'm coming, I'm going, I can't do it, so, look left, look right. Kurigakure ninja has a sea of grass and mud in his head. If you don't play like this, you are a foul. Is there a referee? No. Is there a court? Neither. Okay, you can go and sue me. After 2 sentences, the machete was raised, Liamong entered the rhythm of chasing and killing, and the tears of the ninjas of Kurigakure village blurred. Rise up, people who don't want to be dead dogs. run bravely towards the sun. O sea, full of water, O steeds, four-legged, grinning ninjas of Kurigakure village. I don't play with me. Don't play. You said you won't play if you don't play. Sister Anko, Hinata, it's time for the show, let's play together and smack him. Gentle fist 8 trigrams 64 palms. Speaking of which, on the side show of both hands, Hinata's little secretary opened the prelude to the fire. Ask for a reward, and ask for a monthly pass. This chapter is late today. Yesterday, the code was written until midnight. For the sake of the hard work in the clouds, brothers and sisters, let's give it a hand. Text chapter 96 _ start a new journey and take away new girls. One day the dragon will raise its head. I want the Yangtze River to flow back, and one day the tiger will return to the mountain, and I will kill a professional. Heihei168.com. Hinata's little secretary, 64 palms, has finished typing, and Mitarashi Anko's handprints have been formed, standing there with puffy cheeks. As soon as Hinata pulled away, the ninjutsu was thrown. Liamong took a look. Oh my go, it's still a big move. The fire dragon flame bomb composed entirely of raging flames, John Kiba roaring with claws, and the Kurigakure ninja with chakra frozen all over his body, with protruding eyes, ended his sinful life like a toad. His life was an incomparably brilliant life, a life worth remembering, and a life in which newspapers were burned at the grave. Knife, salute, behead. Take the brain seeds wrapped in cloth and wrap them in a wooden box. After thinking about the use of waste, I will find a public toilet and sell it in a while. With the poor morals of those bird ninjas in Kurigakure village, if the black market didn't offer a reward from them, he would screw his head off. Where are we going next? Look for Tsunade. Biting Kiba, clenching his teeth and rolling his arms and sleeves, Liamong hated the legendary fat sheep. People don't do things like this. Shizune, let's make 2 punches, and whoever loses will have a drink. Tsunade-sama, I really can't do it. 000, Shizune felt dizzy and wanted to refuse. Tsunadeheim pushed the glass in front of him. You can, come, have another glass. I really can't do it. You can do it. The pretty-faced hunchback Yuhi took a wine bottle and shoved it into Shizune's hand. Senju Tsunade's big eyes blurred, and he fell asleep. Shaking his head, Shizune Kato, who had flowers in front of him, mixed the princess back into the room, put a bath water and picked up his clothes. First untied the black loincloth, then removed the green casino shirt. The gray lining took off, and 2 groups of big white rabbits jumped in front of him. The drunk Shizune blinked, raised his hand and pressed it. It's so big, I'm so shocked every time I see it. Master Tsunade is so good. Shizune Kato rubbed 2 hands admiringly, touching his own little pigeon, and then touching other people's big meatballs. In a daze, he was attacked, and the sleepy-eyed Tsunade turned over and pinned Shizune under him. My dear, my sister will check your body. Tsunade-sama, please do tea. The small arms can't twist the thighs. Kato Shizune is Senju Tsunade's opponent. He turned into a little sheep after a few struggles. Yuhi's fluttering face doesn't know whether he is drinking or shy. 2 slender hands, one blocking the top and the other blocking the bottom. Tsunadeheim, who had hiccups, stood up, and his big eyes lit up. Interesting academy. Master Tsunade. Don't get excited, little girl, sister is here. Some of the baby fat cheeks were slightly flushed. Yuhi, Kato Shizune's murmur gave Senju Tsunade endless motivation. Climbing over the mountain, jumping over the slope, there is a lush hillside in front of you. Not there. The slender hand hurriedly stretched out to block the invasion. Shizune's weakness was exchanged for endless strength. What do you think that woman is doing? Liamong, who had driven into the town early in the morning, yawned. Mitarashi Anko smiled coldly. What else can I do? I must go to some casino to fool around. That's right. Thinking of Tsunade's headache-inducing hobby, Liamong nodded subconsciously, and just as he was about to continue to say something, the little secretary Hinata gently pulled the corner of his shirt, brother, you look over there. Looking at something, they turned their heads in doubt, and the gangster and Anko were immediately taken aback. So what's Tenten angry about now? Well, I don't feel good at all. Tiger clenched his fists with a black face, and was furious with Senju Tsunade, who had gotten up early in the morning and wandered around Shizune. Seeing that the fat sheep was about to get angry, Liamong quickly said hello, ha. It's Tsunade's sister, I have found you. Without even consciously speaking ill of people, he threw off his stride, and the bastard fell to the ground with a thud. Senju Tsunade, who avoided the hug, snorted, turned around and walked towards the hotel. Pulapulahu followed with a ha-ha. Liamong touched his nose and laughed. Where are we going next? Let's talk about it first. I don't want to go back to that broken snake den. Sister Tsunade, this can't be done. We have to go there to pick up someone. But I promise you, it won't stay long. 3 days at most. We'll go, then we'll go. The place that had been planned for a long time appeared in front of him. The gangster's face was full of weird smiles. The 4 women who were sitting at the same table were all chilled by the look of his naked ass riding a motorcycle, smoking and turning around. Who is this bastard trying to figure out? Why did I suddenly have a bad feeling? Walking into the land of fields like a yo-yo ta-ta tour, the man who plunged into the snake's nest saw the reincarnated Orochimaru, the body made of Senju Hashirama cells, which brought infinite pressure to people. You succeeded. Tsunade's voice was a little cold. Hee, just reluctantly, there are still many problems that have not been solved. If you can. Don't even think about this. It's already the limit to allow you people to use Grandpa's cells by default. It's a dream to want me to help. The refusal that he had guessed was not lost. Orochimaru hissed twice and let Yakushi Kabuto bring in the person who Liamong wanted. You will follow him in the future. Lord Orochimaru's bright yuhi-colored pupils rolled his eyes timidly, and Uzumaki Shunglin looked a little embarrassed and uneasy. Seeing the person who wanted to show up, the gangster chuckled lightly. Don't worry, although it's my request for a trade, it's a little disrespectful to you. But I'm sure you'll be grateful to me. See the one over there. Was far away, Liamong explained under Shunglin's puzzled gaze. She is the legendary Sanin flower, Tsunadeheim with the title of Fat Sheep. She is also the princess of the country of Vortex, Uzumaki. Mito's granddaughter. Uzumaki Mito. No one from the Uzumaki clan does not know this legendary princess. Just like all Konoha ninjas don't know who Senju Hashirama is, Uzumaki Mito has the same status in the country of Vortex. Although the country of the Vortex is now a thing of the past, Shunglin still hears a lot of stories from his parents. Now, can I really follow her? Hearing the expectation in Uzumaki Shunglin's words, Liamong smiled complacently. Of course, you will study with her in the future. Then, this is also for you. Orochimaru for the first time were taken out and pressed to the ground, and a scroll the size of the Book of Seals recorded many seals unique to the country of vortexes. Is this really for me? Kaizan-zan raised his head in disbelief. Shonglin, who had survived the war since he was a child, couldn't believe that there were still people in the world who treated her so well. Looked at the girl with the beautiful hair Yuhi and smiled. I won't give it to you, except for the Uzumaki clan. Everyone else will give it all for nothing. Some angrily glanced at Orochimaru. The bastard wanted to strangle this bastard to death. Last time he wondered why this guy was so good at talking, and he didn't know until he took the time to ask Senju Tsunade, an insider, that this thing was something like a Kekkei Genkei. Even the Senju clan, the distant relatives of the Uzumaki clan, don't even think about learning some unique sealing techniques. After learning about this, Lu Mang, who was greatly at a loss, cursed Orochimaru in secret. Seeing his sullen look now, he is even more angry. Take the scroll and let's go. He glared at the inhuman. Liamong smiled at Shunglin and prepared to leave. Orochimaru sat in the back and spoke. Damn boy, why don't you ask Uchiha Sasuke? I'll let him die, bye-bye. He waved his hand without taking away a cloud, and Liamong introduced Senju Tsunade with his fragrant scales. Seeing a distant relative by accident, the empty sheep showed a smile. "Little girl, my name is Sister." "Hello, Sister," she said sweetly, and Uzumaki Shanglinyan Yuhi's pupils were full of Confucianism. To be able to see the legendary existence and follow him around is the happiest thing in the world for Shanglin, who grew up listening to the story of the country of the vortex. Seeing Tsunade Heim settle the scales so easily, the gangster was really speechless. The sound of clack of footsteps, Yakushi Kabuto pushed his glasses and said, "Lord Orochimaru, all 4 of them died in battle, and the southern outpost lost its incense scales. Although Kimimaro is back to normal now, our manpower is not enough." "It doesn't matter, the problem of insufficient manpower is easy to solve." The latest research results obtained in the laboratory appeared in front of him, and Sanin Lengkun's upside-down snake pupils were full of cold light. Walking out of the gloomy and tidal underground base, Liamong stretched his waist. Tsunade looked down at the little tail beside him and asked, "Where are we going next? Don't tell me you have no plans." "Aha, how could there be no plan for this kind of thing? Not only did I have a plan, but I also planned it a long time ago. I came to such a hellish world and was born in such a hellish village." Liamong was once confused about his future. If he hadn't accidentally awakened the inheritance, he probably wouldn't know how to die. Konoha, where the gold and jade are lost, is really a place that makes people nostalgic and vomit blood. Since the decision to pay, Liamong has prepared a retreat for himself, and now it is time to set out for the retreat. A new beginning, a new journey, one must have some pursuits in this life, right? He turned his head to look at Hinata, who was gently pulling on the edge of his clothes, and then at Mitarashi Anko, who had a stinky face. Breeze undulating, hair flying, Tsunade Shizune fragrant scales looked at the sky, and the smiling Luang launched the marching slogan into the distance. "Go, let's go next. There are still 2 chapters in the evening, please leave a message if you have any comments." Text chapter 97 _ When the little devil is difficult to deal with the ordinary, the dog is idle. The whistling north wind blew up the snowflakes and the cloak squeaked, and Senju Tsunade, who reached out to wrap his hair, was full of anger. "Stinky boy, is this where you're coming? Enla, my good sister, the place we're going to is like spring all year round, not much worse than Konoha. You're going to lie to the ghost with these words. Even in this cold and freezing place, the 4 seasons are like spring." 100 people stared in disbelief. Senju Tsunade would never believe this nonsense anyway. Anko listened suspiciously beside her, with her understanding of Liamong. Since this stinky boy said so, there must be such a place. But looking around at the white world where nothing but snow was snow, Anko had to be apprehensive. Can there really be spring in this place? The cold wind whistled, all eyes were suspicious, and the angrily flowing light stopped the little secretary's hand. "Hinata, they don't believe me, you must believe me, right?" Brother said yes, there must be. With a certain little head, Hinata's little secretary stood on Liamong's side without hesitation, and the punk leader was moved. The tears flowed, rushing. The 1-week trip passed quickly when the big guy was on his way at full speed. Liuman, who lived in the snow country mansion, threw the cake to Hinata, and the little secretary carefully wiped off the snowflakes and put them on the hanger in the corner. After a few cups of warm tea, the tired big guy became sleepy, and Anko in a daze even forgot to drive Liuman out. It's a pity that the gangster at this time also didn't want to be cheap, and just wanted to close his eyes and get a good night's sleep. They slept well here, but there was someone who couldn't sleep. "What is your Majesty Koyuki doing here so late?" The long fishing rod was aimed at the moonlight and flung toward the lake, and the man dressed as a civilian was unusually leisurely. Kazuhana Koyuki, who was wearing casual clothes, walked over to the man and pulled out his clothes. He looked at the few herrings in the fish cage with a smile on his face. "My lord is really leisurely, and shouldn't disturb your peaceful life. But someone came today, I want to see you by name." "Who?" The man's hand holding the fishing rod froze, and his peaceful face suddenly became a little gloomy. It's the legendary Sanin, the princess of the Senju clan, Tsunadiheim. It's her. A little surprised and a little puzzled, the man didn't understand how a small character like him could attract the attention of such a person. Is there anyone else coming with her? Yes, 1 boy, 2 girls, 3 children, and 2 waitresses. Kazuhana Koyuki thought for a while and then said, the boy's identity is very high, and the identity submitted is the enshrinement of the country of fire. What's that kid called? The man who turned around was unusually cold with the fishing rod in his hand beside him. Kazuhana Koyuki was stunned for a while, not understanding how a child could make the adult in front of him care so much, but he still gave an explanation. His name is Kuchiki Liamong. It seems that Konoha had issued an order to him in the previous paragraph, but I don't know what happened later. The reason is gone. Quote. It's really this kid. There was a little bit of killing intent in his narrowed eyes, and Kazuhana Koyuki subconsciously tightened his clothes. Since taking back the country and regaining the throne, she hasn't felt the terror of the man in front of her for a long time. Lord, look at it. I'll go see them. He got up and picked up the fishing rod under his feet and lifted the fish cage. The man waved goodbye to Kazuhana Koyuki. Sitting back in the rumbling snowmobile, the queen of the snow country was confused and felt that things seemed to be going in a bad direction. The shoulder resisted the fishing rod and pushed open the wooden door. There was a creaking sound, and the woman who turned back smiled. You're back. We might be in trouble. He walked closer and looked down at the woman's eyes, and the man let out a long sullen breath. Some unwilling, and some lonely. The girl who was as pure as snow was stunned. Sir. It's okay, we'll call that guy up tomorrow. Thinking of the accomplice he hadn't seen for a long time, a smile appeared on the man's face. The woman with the spatula also smiled. No matter what the Lord decides, I'll be by your side. The next day, at dawn, Lu Meng, who was about to get up, opened his eyes that were still a little tired, and quickly retracted his bed, holding one in his left hand and one in his right, and sniffed his little nose. Fragrant, really fragrant. Slippery, really slippery. The 2 little hands who couldn't restrain themselves were touching this and pinching the other under the quilt. The carefree woman pushed him a little uncomfortable. The little girl next to her was shaking slightly, and her trembling eyelids were obviously awake. Continuing to pretend to be confused as the gangster who didn't find it, he stretched his hand inward again. Brother. Stinky boy, what are you doing? With a roar of Hidong's lion, Enko, who was attacked in the chest, opened his eyes, and turned over and pressed Liamong under him. A little bit of saliva overflowed the corner of his mouth, and he looked down with his eyes, and finally found that the wrong Enko was biting Silver Kiba, and suddenly a sweet smile appeared. Does it look good? Take a good look. The 2 round and rolling hills were in front of them, and with the master's anger, how could Liuman say a word? Mitarashi Enko's laugh became more and more dangerous. Just when Hanada's little secretary didn't know what to do, there was a knock on the door from a waiter outside. Master Kuchiki Liamong, Master Santefu has been waiting for you for a long time. Okay, I'll go right away, he quickly responded, turning his head and grinning embarrassedly. Sister Enko, look, you can let me go first, we still have business to do. Snort. With both hands loose, he turned over and got out of bed, and regardless of whether anyone was watching, Mitarashi Enko changed his clothes on his own, with his beige-pink back bent, his firm arms raised, and his hot waist swaying from side to side. Oh sell high, why doesn't she stick up a little more? Covering his nose with regret, Liamong saw the 3 Teifu mentioned by Shikong in the living room of the outer courtyard. This is a half-hundred-year-old man with a full beard, 2 cross-eyed eyes, and a small round mirror that is very happy. At first glance, he looks like an old fox stealing chickens and dogs. Where's the person I want to see? Lord Kuchiki, the one you want to see is still on the way. I came to report it to you on purpose. In addition, if you have any requests, you can ask them now, and we will try our best to meet them. Oh, it's still on the way. Obviously he didn't believe it very much, but Liamong didn't believe that the road was not on the way. That person was coming, and one night was enough. It's not here yet, what are you preparing for? Haha, it's really interesting, people who were so arrogant back then would have times when they were afraid. Who the hell are you waiting for? Mitarashi Anko asked again in disgust when he saw Liamong coming back from outside. Lu Mang, who was selling enough money, stretched his waist. I'll know it in the afternoon. Don't worry, it's not too dangerous. Although it's a bit tricky, it's not necessarily a conflict, and we don't need to fight with him. Although, the relationship with him doesn't seem to be very good. Damn stinky boy, you have to shy. Leaving a sentence of anger, he pulled Hinata out to enjoy the snow, and Tsunade and Shizune also came out to play, and the four built a snowman. The servants in the guild smirked when they saw it from a distance. To the people of the snow country, snow is really not a rare thing, and very few people can build snowmen, even children. As long as you get older, you will get tired of this eternal image, you will become numb, and finally become invisible. Making a snowman is too childish, these foreigners really have no experience. Stinky, come and play together. He grabbed a snowball and hit the corridor, and Mitarashi Anko started the fight first. Liamong, who was shot in the forehead, turned over and hit back. You brought it on yourself. Completely giving up Qigong and martial arts, and relying on his own gang leader to fight with Anko, the little secretary watched and secretly delivered cannonballs. Brother, here it is. Hinata, you can't do this. The gray-brown pupils flashed a little annoyed, and Mitarashi Anko pursed his cheeks angrily. The proud Liamong hugged the little secretary and gave him a kiss. Damn stinky boy, Xianglin comes here to help. Master Tsunade. Go, gently tapped the little apprentice on the shoulder twice. Senju Tsunade nodded with a smile. Getting the answer, Uzumaki Xianglin cheered and joined the fray, 2 on 2, and the two women were focusing on taking care of the droopy head full of big bags. Sister Anko, fight fast. Where's the brat running? The happy time passed in the blink of an eye for a long time, and some tired streamers got into the quilt against the sun. Confucius said, if you don't sleep at noon, you will collapse in the afternoon. Mencius said, Confucius is right. Just when Liamong was sleeping, a group of 4 came to the outside of the clubhouse. Except for the cloak that is worn on the outside, the clothes on the inside are very ordinary. As soon as the gatekeeper saw it, he rushed out. Go, 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 this is not a place for you to come. Let's find someone. The man's voice was calm. Looking for someone. Looking up and down the 3 small and 3 standing under the steps, the guard snorted, just come here to find someone. Do you know where this place is? The mansion. The people living in it are all from other countries. The big man, and so are you. I said, let's find someone. The sign he took out from his arm slapped under his feet, and the doorman thumped and knelt there. Sir. One more chapter. The cloud is not very comfortable. I don't know if it was because of yesterday's reason, I was sweating all over. The last chapter may be delayed, but it will definitely be posted. I hope my friends will understand. Text chapter 98_ sitting opposite and flipping the whole card to scare you to death. He raised his head nervously, and the doorman who quickly picked up the sign and wiped it clean was trembling all over. Hey168.com. The man in ordinary clothes sighed, took back the number plate, shook his head, and walked towards the open door. I didn't expect you to have such a good temper sometimes. Hee, aren't you too? Without looking back, he continued to move forward. The man smiled and pushed back against his companion's run. The clack of footsteps were far away, and the doorman kneeling on the ground swallowed his saliva, almost feeling that he was going to die. Although he had never seen a real person before, the legend of the man just now spread in every corner of the snow country. The former king of the country, Kazuhana, was attacked and killed by him in the midst of the army, and Shui Ren, who accompanied him to protect him, was completely helpless. In just one afternoon, the former country lord who rebelled against his elder brother returned his position and was taken over by the current His Majesty Koyuki. At the beginning, the ministers were a little neglected because His Majesty Koyuki was young. It was this man who used an extremely powerful hand to cleanse the disobedient high-level officials, beheading all those who did not obey the order. 3 months later, he disappeared without a trace and was never heard from again. Unexpectedly, this legendary man would come here today. Worse still, he had offended him. Thinking of what he said just now, the mean doorman slapped his 2 ears, and the corners of his mouth bleed without pain. It's over, it's over, that man has never been relentless in killing people. Walking through the corridor and crossing the alley, Shikong was introduced to the courtyard. Lu Mang, who was awakened by Hinata, shook his head and saw someone in the living room. The two looked at each other and were speechless for a while. And covered his belly, tears streaming out of his laughter. Ha ha ha, look who this is. Is this still the Peach Land known as the Kurigakure ghost? What about the big sword? What about your murderous aura? You are actually you. Quote. There are no Kurigakure ghosts now, and there is no Peach Land that will not be cut again. I am just an ordinary fisherman. I hope you will not disturb our peaceful life. If you don't cut it, it doesn't look like you at all. Lu Mang was a little surprised and puzzled. People can change. Looking out the window with unremarkable eyes, the Kurigakure ghosts seem to have become ordinary people. I used to want to control the country, so I listened to your words and came here. But when I really become the master at the time, I realized that things are far from being as simple as I thought. His Majesty Koyuki of the Interesting Academy has done a good job in this regard, so after I saw myself clearly, I put everything down and lived for the people who cherished me and cherished me. Quote. If you don't cut it again, you really don't plan to go out. The gangster was a little anxious. Before he came here, he had never imagined that such a strange thing would happen. Who would have thought that if Teodi is not cut, he will play sealed saber and go into hiding, which is too much for him to aim at. Even with this guy's virtuous nature, he would do such a bizarre thing. Is the world changing too fast, or is the person in front of him mad? Seeing the astonishment and confusion on Liamong's face, he said solemnly, I have sealed the beheading sword, and there are no more Kurigakure ghosts in the world. Deadwood Liamong, I hope you don't bring trouble to the snow country. After saying a few words, he got up and left. Haku, who didn't say a word from beginning to end, smiled apologetically at Liamong, and followed Zabujan to the outside of the house. There was a muffled sound, the door opened wide, and all the people who were about to leave stopped. Stinky boy, this is the person you're looking for, doesn't he look good? His bright golden eyes rolled his eyes and stopped, and then he stopped cutting a line. Senju Tsunade walked into the house, followed by Uzumaki Shanglin. Sticking out his little tongue, the naughty one seems to have lost his age. Liamong sitting in the seat was speechless. Please, my good sister, in the entire ninja world, there are few people who can compare with you. Although they are worse, they are not the Chinese cabbage on the roadside. It's a pity that these guys chose to go into hiding. Retreat. Turning back in doubt, Senju Tsunade looked up and down with admiration. Ninjas who can choose to retreat at this age can either see through the world or have nothing to worry about. The 4 guys at the door obviously cannot be the latter, so it must be the former. Being able to see through the world's false reputation, even if the strength is inferior, is worthy of recognition. What's your name? Lord Tsunade, I and the unknown juniors are nothing to talk about. But since you asked, we don't dare to hide it, and we won't cut it in Sha Teodi. Haku. Kurosuke Rai Kiba. Renmara. Except for the last one who is not well known, the first 3 are all well-known figures. 2 of the 7 knives of Kurigakure, the owner of Hyoten Ice Style, who can be as famous as Mokuden Wood Style. How can such 3 guys be in this place to hide? Seeing the doubts in Senju Tsunade's eyes, he was full of helplessness, who had caused evil on his own head. Who would have thought that the dark flags planted that day would be useless? According to the idea of the gangster, if he doesn't cut it, he should at least become the shadow of Shuiyin village, or the name of the snow country. After he comes, he can take advantage of picking peaches. But take a look at this bird man with no fighting spirit in front of him. He aimed. Feng Dao, Feng your sister, Feng. He cursed inwardly and shook his head helplessly, and a lot of Liamong, who had failed in his calculations, rubbed his hands together. It's not to stay, and it's not okay to stay, not to finish the application, wait for a long time to bow again and resign. Seeing that Liamong didn't want to hold back, Tsunade didn't bother about his own business, and only turned his eyes curiously when the four of them walked away. What the hell are you thinking of? The idea is the idea, why do you have to add a ghost? The speechless turned away from the small face and took the teacup to warm his mouth, and the bastard explained, since they don't want to do it again, let's take Kazahana Koyuki. Boss. Then, this is for you. Took out from his pocket was thrown onto the table, and Senju Tsunade opened it and was stunned. Where did you get it? Snatch it. Don't look at me like that. This thing was brought back from a Megakure village by Orochimaru, and I made a deal with him. What are you going to do? Senju Tsunade's voice was a little cold. First it was Grandpa Hashirama's cell, and then it was Grandpa Tobarama's sword. What the hell was this brat trying to do? That Tsunade's face was abnormal. Liamong quickly accompanies a smiling face. Don't get excited, I didn't plan to do anything too bad, I just wanted to make some fakes. Fake? Yeah. Kaba put down the teacup with his eyes. Liamong licked his face and approached Tsunade. Do you know why you want to come to the snow country? It's just because the country's technology level is high enough. After pairing with my small crystal block, it will definitely be able to make a good imitation, but it is not possible with the support of Uzumaki's incense scales sealing technique. He poured out his plans in one breath, and the gangster opened the conversation. Most of the ninja tools in the ninja world now come from the country of craftsmen. If we can grab enough shares, we can get infinite wealth, and we can't do what we want in the future. Problems that can be solved with money are not problems. Quote. Sounds good. Senju Tsunade swallowed his incense as the hill-like gambling book appeared in front of him. The two money-seeking guys looked at each other and felt that this matter could be done. The difference is that the gang leader is completely afraid of being poor in his previous life, while Tsunade is afraid that he will not have the money to turn the book. But no matter what the reason, one man, one woman, one big and one small, two financial fans, all began to use their brains. Liamong, who had greeted Shikong early, was invited by Kazahana Koyuki. Seeing this queen for the first time was really amazing. Different from the temperament of any woman in the past, she has the handsomeness and stubbornness of men, but it does not lose the gentleness and grace of women, forming a unique look that is contradictory and soft. Looking at him secretly, Lu Meng coughed lightly. Your Majesty Koyuki, I want the full support of the Snow Country Science and Technology Department. I don't know what price I have to pay. What can you bring to the Snow Country? The punk leader's straightforward approach was somewhat unexpected, but Kazahana Koyuki quickly calmed down and immediately asked a question to the core. This woman is not easy to deal with. I secretly made a comment in my heart, haha. Liamong took out the prepared gift. Your subordinates participated in the auction some time ago, and they were incompetent. These things are exactly what I did. You are that mysterious Yakushi. Kazahana Koyuki, who almost stood up, was frightened when his butt left the seat and half a finger forced down. Countless forces have made judgments on this before, and the biggest suspect is Kato Shizune, and of course there are others. But in any case, no one but Konoha guessed that Liamong was on the head. The gangster is too young. Although a 12-year-old doll is not small in the ninja profession, it is absolutely impossible for Yakushi. Any Yakushi, the youngest must be 30 years old or above. This is not to say that medicine is really that difficult, many people can do it. But if you want to study and understand, and improve it, you must also find out the truth inside. It cannot be achieved overnight. Knowledge and experience are indispensable. A qualified Yakushi must be a top medical expert, and every such guy is a national treasure. Not only the ninja world respects them, but ordinary people also value them, and they are guests wherever they go. But now, go to sleep, feel uncomfortable all over, and keep sweating. Those who have votes cast, leave comments with comments. Thank you from the cloud. Text chapter 99 _ respectfully, the country of snow also has spring. You really did these. Kazuhana Koyuki still couldn't believe it, even though Liamong had admitted it himself. Interesting Academy first release. The suspected gangster covered his forehead. I look like a fake, or is there any benefit in lying to you? I'm sorry, Master Kuchiki, please forgive my rudeness. Kazuhana Koyuki quickly apologized after hearing Liamong say this. Regardless of whether it is true or false, even if it is false, it must be regarded as true now. If it's true, it's too bad, too lucky. Of course, the gangster will not have the same knowledge as a woman. Your Majesty Koyuki, I need the Snow Country Science and Technology Department to help me make something. In return, the medicine and magic will be supplied to the royal family as compensation, and you can sell them. You can also keep it for yourself. Also, please remind me that these are only primary reagents, and I am not using the medical skills you have guessed. Several very common things were placed in front of him, and Kazuhana Koyuki was stunned when he saw the ingredients that Liamong took out. Mushrooms, honey, cheese, coarse garlic. If you grew up in the palace without food and clothing, you might know these things. But Kazuhana Koyuki, who has gone through rebellion, wandered out, and worked as an actor, certainly does not know what is in front of him. Not only does he know, but he is also kind. But what is Liuman doing with these things? Cooking. Master, who are you? Hearing is false, seeing is believing. Your Majesty Koyuki, please be careful. If you want to gain the trust of others, of course you must have the ability to show your hands. While talking, the gangster took out 2 transparent glasses, cleaned the food village in the eyes of ordinary people and pressed it into juice, shook his head and shook his head. Kazuhana Koyuki, who is sitting opposite, has his head full of mucus. What is this doing? Looking carefully at the half-year-old child on the opposite side, the queen of the snow country was stunned, but she couldn't help but doubt the previous judgments. But soon the doubt disappeared. 2 reagents, 1 Yuhi and 1 blue, were poured into the test tube and it became a legendary potion of up to 80 million taels. This. A dry mouth and no words to describe it, Kazuhana Koyuki was really frightened. At the same time, a little crazy, and a little indignant. Do you think it's a bit tricky for me to do this? Kazuhana Koyuki, who was deliberately left behind, pushed over the table, picked it up and looked at it again and again. Regardless of the disgrace, he broke some off on the spot to pay for it, and none of it looked like a fake. But how do you say the word Mrs. Bullshit? Yes. It's a scam, it's a scam. Mushrooms, honey, cheese, and coarse garlic, these 4 kinds of ingredients are everywhere, and they sold 80 million taels with a shake of their heads. If you don't know the raw materials, that's fine, and if you know it, you won't be able to make people live. Seeing Kazuhana Koyuki's maddened and charming appearance, the smug punk raised his finger and shook it. This is technology, leave me. Mushrooms are still mushrooms, honey is still honey, the ingredients are here, you can please anyone try to copy it. Sister Suna has spent more than half a year on this matter, and until now, there is no result. Is what Princess Senju said at the auction true? Kazuhana Koyuki, who knew that she had lost her way, was very embarrassed. Punk leader became more and more proud. Of course, this is alchemy, how can it be so easy to understand? Do you know what alchemy is? Shaking his head blankly, Kazuhana Koyuki really didn't know, he had never heard of this profession before. Liamong, who had sold the pass, became a teacher with a light cough and boasted, alchemy, as the name implies, is the technique of refining gold. Long ago, people came up with the idea of refining stones because of the preciousness of gold. The idea of gold, which is the origin of alchemy. Quote, turn stones into gold, Kazuhana Koyuki Spartan. Yes, it's crazy, but it's really the origin of alchemy. Whatever the results of later research, it was really the pursuit of that goal in the first place. Then have they succeeded? If he could turn a stone into gold and stare at Liamong with his eyes shining, how could Kazuhana Koyuki be able to sit still? Gangster shook his head helplessly and said, making stones into gold, Your Majesty Koyuki, the essence of alchemy is equal exchange. Although the original intention was to make stones into gold, the name was passed down. But what I have to say is that, this idea has not been realized so far, and maybe there will be a sage who succeeds in the future. Quote. It's such a pity. With a sigh of disappointment and relief, Kazuhana Koyuki didn't know what her current mood was. But she immediately realized that even if alchemy can't make stones into gold, it is worthy of the name. What is gold refining? Just take out one of the two reagents in front of you, and you can exchange for countless. Seeing Kazuhana Koyuki's face changing several times in a short period of time, the gangster smiled. Okay, let's stop thinking about those unrealistic things. Your Majesty Koyuki, with these reagents, what we talked about earlier conditions. You will have the full support of the Snow Country, manpower, material resources, whatever you want, and we will try our best to do it if you don't have it. Kazuhana Koyuki made a promise, and Kazuhana Koyuki's abacus rattled. With these two reagents, it is difficult not to make a fortune. If nothing else, the cost alone is insane. Well, until now, Her Majesty the Queen of the Snow Country is still a little unbelievable. After Liamong said goodbye and left, he picked up a head of garlic and stuffed it into his mouth. He regretted it after stuffing it. Come here, bring me another pot of water. The spicy garlic stuffed into the mouth, the smell deeply stimulated the taste buds. Hearing the screams coming from behind, the gangster strummed a little tune, and only remembered when he turned around. Whether it was him or Kazuhana Koyuki, he forgot about the magic thing. But it doesn't matter anymore. With the support of the Snow Country, Liamong's career is finally on the right track. Returned to the clubhouse and told Senju Tsunade about it, the fat sheep was also very happy. Stinky boy, it's really yours. That's not it. The little head giggled, and he was very proud. A few days later, he and 3, 2, and 5 women lived in the mansion gifted by Kazuhana Koyuki. Now that he has decided to live in the Snow Country for a long time, it is impossible to stay in the guild hall, and a house is indispensable. Bowing and standing beside the yuhi-colored gates, Santeifu smiled and made an inviting gesture. Master Kuchiki, this courtyard is the place where the Lord of the Kingdom gave you and Princess Tsunade and the ladies to rest, if you have anything. If you are not satisfied, please bring it up, and we will send someone to revise it, or give you another one. Quote. I'm afraid it's not easy here. He stepped into the door and looked up, and the gleaming light was immediately strange. The cornices and animal horns are across the courtyard, with cold plums and green pines. Although there are no flowers everywhere due to geographical reasons, it has a unique style, especially these evergreen plants, which bring a lot of vitality to the courtyard. The winding Wen-Izumi Canal is even more pleasing. Although the gangster doesn't understand the specifications of this world very well, he can see the extraordinary here. There was a nostalgic smile in Santeifu's eyes. Master Kuchiki, this house was originally the other house of the previous king's wife, but it was abandoned for a while due to the war. It was not restored until His Majesty Koyuki returned. Don't worry, it is inside. Everything bought is brand new. Quote. Sister Hinata, Sister Enko, what do you think of this place? Haha nodded with understanding, and the gangster asked Chishi's opinion. If you don't like it, change it. Hinata, who has lived in a wealthy compound since she was a child, shook her head. She was satisfied with being by Liamong's side, and it didn't matter where she lived. It was Mitarashi Enko who looked around and pointed out a few points of dissatisfaction. This is not to be picky, it's just that ninjas are different from ordinary people. There are many things that ordinary people need to like. For ninjas, it is really redundant. The 3 Teifu summoned Shikong to respectfully record the request, and then went to ask Tsunade's opinion. Liamong can ignore it, but he can't. But this is obviously a bit superfluous. After 30 years of wandering outside, Tsunade-hime really has no requirements for where to live. Don't bother me with these troubles, just clean up a room for me. Shizune, give him the material list and arrange it according to the above requirements. 1. He took the paper full of writing with both hands and glanced at it, and Santeifu knew it in his chest. It was all medicinal materials and some electronic equipment, so it was not too troublesome. Master Kuchiki, Princess Tsunade, if there are no other requests, I will leave. Those requests will be in place tomorrow afternoon at the latest. Okay, it's so troublesome. Saying a polite word to send the third husband away, the vacated house is a little deserted. It was mainly Liuman who drove the maids and servants away from the whole place. The room was too big and it was a bit empty. Where are the 4 seasons like spring you said? With his hands clasped at his waist, he turned around and looked back. Anko, who had seen the room, remembered the previous stubble. Looking up at the sky, he raised his eyebrows. Does everyone want to go? Then let's go and have a look. To be honest, it's a really nice place. In order to fulfill his daughter's dreams since childhood, Kazuhana Zhaoshui, the previous king, spent a lot of money to build a paradise on earth. In the country of snow, which has been snowing continuously for years, using the sun and the barrier, a fairy tale world has been built. The country of snow also has spring, sunshine, blue lakes, green grass, beaches, and 5 crystal mirrors with a height of more than 10 meters. It is floral. Brother, this place is so beautiful. Stinky boy, how about we live here? I'm going to build a house on the island in the heart of the lake. Wait, why are there people there? In the first chapter of Ask for a Monthly Pass, drinking 2 bottles of Huoxiangjang vapor liquid feels good. Text chapter 100 _ from the country of craftsmen, this woman has a sick head. A fenced courtyard and 2 thatched cottages stand harmoniously in the center of the island in the center of the lake. Mobile phone reading is more convenient. m.heihei168.com compared with the previous mansion gifted by Kazuhana Koyuki, it cannot be counted by reason. But really to choose, Mitarashi Anko would rather live here. It wasn't just her, Hinata, Tsunade, Shizune, Karen, all went there with bright eyes. With a creaking sound, the woman who came out of the room was stunned for a moment, then smiled gently. Welcome, please come in and sit, and I'll pour water for you. Simple houses, simple furnishings, a table, a bed and a chair, the ordinary can no longer be ordinary. But in this commonplace, it silently exudes tranquility and serenity, and the faint warmth makes people intoxicated. Why don't you cut it again? Liamong asked curiously after taking the boiling water handed over by the hostess. My lord has gone fishing. Fishing. The little face was twitching and shivering. The gangster really didn't expect that he would become a fisherman if he didn't cut it again. This madman who is known as a ghost, kills all the students when he graduates, and ends the era of blood fog, will also put down his butcher knife one day. What was it that made him change? Was it really like what he said? After he got it, he became empty. With doubts in mind, he asked where he was going, and he left behind a few girls to find the righteous master under the shade of a tree full of flowers. Before he could get close, he opened his eyes with Qingfeng dozing off, and saw that the gangster was very upset. What are you doing here? Come on, I think this place is good. I plan to live there for a few years. Deadwood and gleaming light. Steel Kiba clenched his eyes tightly, and he didn't want anyone to ruin his current life if he didn't cut it at all. The Liuman lying on the grass plucked a weed. Don't show that fierce look. This place is so big, it's not inferior to us, it's good to have neighbors. What on earth are you trying to do? Facing the young man in front of him who couldn't see through, he became more vigilant. Liamong chewed the weeds twice and yawned. You know, I prepared this place for myself. You remembered what happened that day, and his face changed again and again. After chewing a mouthful of bitterness, the bastard spit out the weeds, took out a water bottle and took 2 sips. You like tranquility, and I like tranquility, but I didn't expect you to seal the knife at the time. People like you. I will also go into seclusion, which is a bit unexpected, and it has discounted my plans. Quote. You are plotting against me. Suddenly stood up, and his face sank to the bottom of the water. Of course, otherwise why do you think? He tilted his head with a smile and took a few white fangs. Liamong sighed in disappointment. I thought you could become a king or a shadow of a village, but it didn't work out. Done. I have no choice but to cooperate with Hefeng and Koyuki. You can rest assured that I will not disturb your current life. Quote. Really? If he didn't cut it again, he still didn't quite believe it, and Liamong put a lot of pressure on him. The gangster smiled proudly, although it hurts to say this, don't take yourself too seriously. I can fool you into Senju Tsunade, and there is no shortage of people like you. Snort. With a cold snort, he closed his eyes, and even though he didn't cut it, he was less prepared. Xiong'an rested for a while without incident. Liamong patted his buttocks and waved goodbye. Outside the wooden house, several women were chatting and laughing, and when they saw Liamong coming back, they covered their lips and smirked. What are you laughing at? Brother's shy little face was almost as short as the feet, and Hinata's embarrassed appearance made the gangster more curious, but unfortunately he didn't ask in the end. Enko puffed out his cheeks and couldn't make a sound at all. Shizune's chubby and baby fat cheeks looked good, but he was actually better than anyone else. Not to mention Senju Tsunade. As for Karen, well, let's ignore this little girl. Thanks to Tsunade's protection, no one is afraid of today's little girl movies. As the hostess, Haku doesn't even know how to chew his tongue. Liamong, who has a question mark on his forehead, has no choice but to say goodbye. We'll build a house in a few days. Does Sister Bai need anything? I'll bring it to you then. He shook his head with a gentle smile. Jianpu's house didn't need anything. Back to the snow country mansion by car, Santefu has already dealt with Enko's request, and also sent 2 carts of medicinal materials. And leave someone to inform that the medical equipment will be safe tomorrow. Satisfied with this efficiency, Tsunadiheim pulled Shizune into the packed laboratory. Liamong looked left at Enko and looked at Hinata right. His eyes lit up. Let's go to warm Izumi. You know Bubble Izumi. A cheerful grin, Liuman ignored the Byakugan of Mitarashi Enko. If you don't soak in when Izumi, you won't be cheap. If you don't touch it, it won't make people look at it. It was freezing cold outside, the house was full of spring, and the water in the cobblestone bath was moderate. Both Hinata and Enko liked it. They like it, and Liamong likes it even more. He glanced at the looming small chest, and then glanced at the small waist that Yingying was holding. Enko, whose jade body crossed Chen's charming eyes and blurred eyes, stretched his waist, and the gangster almost dipped into the water when he saw it. Sister Enko. Stay away from me. The cheap sister, who can't move her face, is always so fond of conditioning people. Because of her shyness, Hinata's little secretary has always protected herself very well. The key points are rarely exposed, and even if they are exposed, they are quickly covered up. Enko is a good woman. She can reveal everything she can, and she can reveal what she can't. She gets double points when she soaks in water, and she can see everything. It can be seen that she is not allowed to touch it. With fire in his eyes, he glanced at the lacquer grass that was looming under the water, and the gang leader covered the tip of his nose. This woman is really bad. You bite me, just don't let you touch it. With a proud snort, Enko covered his face with a towel, and Enko let out a sigh of relief. You forced me. Master Deadwood, is Master Deadwood here? At the critical moment, he braked suddenly and heard morning shouts from outside. Annoyed, he slammed out of Wen Izumi. Liamong's eyes almost turned green. Master Deadwood, the country of craftsmen is coming. He stood respectfully at the door, and as soon as the gangster came out, Santefu bent down. The country of craftsmen, what did they send people to do? Some time ago, the things you sold at the auction attracted many people's attention. The country of craftsmen did not know where to find out that you and Princess Tsunade were here, so they sent messengers to meet. They said that they wanted to have technical skills with you. Exchange. I communicate with your sister. 2 things that are irrelevant. I will give you a baba. First, the young master can't make weapons, and second, he can't forge steel. Communication. You can do alchemy, or you can enchant magic, and I'll give you a shit if you don't know anything. Seeing Liamong's face full of anger, he felt very bad, and Santeifu opened his mouth in embarrassment. Master Rottenwood, if people want to see you by name, it's not easy for us to decide. Look at this person, whether you see or not see this person. If you don't see him, I'll go back right now. Forget it, I'm going to see which birdman wants to see me. Looking back at the mist emanating from Wen Izumi, the gangster wanted to go back. But this delay, the two girls are almost ready. It's fun to soak alone. Wow, go, you wait for me. With a stomach full of anger, I went to the guild hall where I lived a few days ago with Santeifu, and when I saw the boss of the gangster, he didn't vomit. This woman is so ugly. The face is like a blue crab cover, just like the crab cover. A cherry pigeon green bird feather, with a thorn on the left and a willow on the right. Looking at her eyes again, the originally beautiful big eyeballs were revealing, as if the word, big eyes, was specially invented for her. Let's take a look down. Okay, the nose and mouth of the squat. At that time, Liamong wanted to ask, I said eldest sister Jaywei, are you a rabbit? Of course, the bastard didn't really ask this, for fear of hurting people. Envoy of the Wind Sparrow, this is the Master Deadwood you want to see. Hello. Resisting nausea, he stretched out his right hand, and the gangster thought to himself, he must wash more times after returning. Isn't Princess Tsunade here yet? The envoy of the Artisan Kingdom, who held up the teacup for a while, and didn't even move his buttocks, was very angry. In her opinion, even if Senju Tsunade didn't come, Shizune should be sent. Then she took the opportunity to meet and get a doll. The woman sent by the country of craftsmen was angry, and the gangster who didn't even have a stool next to him was even more angry. He aimed, you want to see me, I'm here, and when I'm here, you put on such a bear cub-like appearance for me, who do you despise? Young master is also what you can despise. The rotten wood is shining, right? He pressed the hot tea and put down the orchid cup. The woman named Funk raised her eyebrows and said like two soybean worms, I'm here to ask you to inform the master. Let's just say that the lord of our country of craftsmen is willing to worship him, and we are willing to supply all the crafting materials that can be found on the mainland for free. For the items he crafts, we only recover the cost of the materials. Quote. After speaking arrogantly, Feng Ke closed her eyes in disdain. She is confident that the master will not refuse these conditions offered by the country of craftsmen. There is no reason for any craftsman to refuse, and she has even begun to plan how to invite the master back. If this mission can be successfully completed, her status in the country will definitely improve a lot. HMPH, even an idiot like Feng who deserves to be taller than me, so when I ask you to go back, master will make him look good. Being ignored for a long time, he turned around angrily and said sternly, Santeifu, don't inform me in the future like this kind of cat and dog, it's really filthy. Stop dead boy, what did you say? In the second update, there are 2 more chapters in the evening. Gaga, this medicine is super useful, Huoxiang Zhengqi water, which friend recommended it to Union, thank you, the name in the group number is different.